Well, we are back. Um, how's everybody doing? I'm going to jump into the comments here. I do apologize for my lack of presence for the first part of the stream. I was remotely monitoring. Unfortunately, I've been, like I said, taking care of a household of sicklings. So, and I'm doing my, sorry, trying to get everything all situated here. Cables and buttons and technologies galore. But, and been trying to keep everybody on the healthy tip. I myself have luckily been able to avoid being sick. So, yeah, knock on foldable wood here. But in the comments, I'd love for anyone to go ahead and share where you're watching from, how you're doing. Just say hi. Give me a quick hello. And let's see. There's no audio yet in the courtroom, so don't worry about that. We're not missing anything just yet. Man, what an interesting day. It wrapped yesterday pretty intense with a lot of talk about penises.
On record on Mark Jensen, 2002
Just to kick us off here,
314. The appearances are the same. The record should reflect the
a
jury
reminder.
is not in the courtroom.
I don't know why.
With that,
Just kinda
which attorney wishes to
sit
put
around
something?
all day and draw pictures of dicks.
What?
Draw pictures of dicks.
Dicks? Like a man dick?
Yeah, like a man dick.
Got the transcripts,
Like a man dick.
transcripts of those intervals also. Now, it's my understanding that defense counsel, Jeremy Perry, intends to cross-examine Paul Ratzberg about things that were not within those transcript clips. In other words, he wants to cross-examine Detective and Lieutenant Ratzberg about statements that Lieutenant Ratzberg made elsewhere in the interview. And the state's objection is that it's hearsay. And the defense argument is that it becomes relevant because their position is that Aaron Dillard had an opportunity to read this entire transcript. And so therefore, Aaron Dillard's statement about what Mark Jensen allegedly told him was informed not by what Mark Jensen told him, but by what Aaron Dillard read in the transcript of the interview. So it's sort of a conditional relevance. The condition precedent is that they need to establish or show that Aaron Dillard read this interview transcript. So I don't have a problem with them being able to cross-examine Detective Ratzberg eventually about the statements that are contained in the interview transcript, assuming they meet that condition precedent. But however, I don't think they can meet that condition precedent. I don't think they will be able to meet that condition precedent. So I don't think they should be allowed to cross-examine Detective Ratzberg about his statements in the interview until they've established that conditional precedent to wit that Aaron Dillard had read or had an opportunity to read this transcript.
What exactly does the defense want to cross this lieutenant about that is objectionable by the state?
It's nothing. I'll be very specific. It's nothing new. This all came in 2008, and the last thing that Mr. Jamboys just said is that to show that Aaron Dillard had an opportunity to view this transcript, and we're going to establish in this trial that this. That there was a transcript. Obviously, there was a transcript of this interview prepared. It's going to come up in mere moments. That transcript was sent to Mark Jensen 4 days before Aaron Dillard got to the Kenosha jail. And what I'm going to be asking this declarant about are statements that he made in it. I'm not going to be asking for Mark Jensen's responses. And it's precisely the information that Aaron Dillard then parrots in terms of claiming that Mark Jensen told him. Now, the state in its opening statement said the only way Aaron Dillard could do that is if he heard it from the mouth of Mark Jensen. And we have to have an opportunity to show that there's another way for that statement to have come into Aaron Dillard's possession, and this is that direct way.
But you're not going to ask this witness that this is what Aaron Dillard saw.
I'm not going to ask him what Aaron Dillard said. I'm going to ask him a handful of statements that he made to Mark Jensen in the interrogation. I'm not going to ask for Mark Jensen's responses. That's it.
I think he can ask what he said.
Here's the problem, Your Honor. First of all, I certainly agree that he can cross-examine Paul Ratzberg, and cross-examination in the state of Wisconsin is wide open. He's not restricted to what I ask about on direct. However, in order for him to cross-examine, he's got to cross-examine him on a relevant proposition. It's got to be something that's relevant. The fact that Detective Ratzberg, for example, at some point was talking about asphyxiation, which I think he was in the course of this interview, that's not relevant unless they can show that it's relevant. And their argument for relevance is that Aaron Dillard saw that or read that, but they can't show that Aaron Dillard read that or saw that. And it is true this came out in the last trial, but I've had an opportunity to read the entire transcript of the last trial, and there was simply no evidence that Aaron Dillard ever saw this interview transcript, none. So in order for it to become relevant, they'd have to ask the jury to speculate that Aaron Dillard read this portion or read this interview transcript. There's simply no evidence in the record of the last trial that Aaron Dillard ever saw this. And Aaron Dillard will categorically deny that he saw this. Now, I acknowledge Aaron Dillard. They're going to challenge his credibility, and rightfully so. There's a lot of questions about his credibility. But he's denied that he ever saw it, and they don't have any evidence that he ever did. Now, if they want to put Mark Jensen on the stand, Mark Jensen can testify that, yeah, I showed this to Aaron Dillard. Then they'd have some evidence that Aaron Dillard read this. But right now, and at the last trial, they never presented evidence that Aaron Dillard ever read this transcript.
Is our buddy Nate behind him there?
So my objection is that the cross-examination on what the detective said elsewhere in the interview is not relevant.
Well, one thing I want to be clear, the defendant does not have to testify. We're not going to get into that. He has an absolute right not to testify.
Oh, I agree. And I certainly didn't. That's why I certainly wasn't going to say this in front of the jury. I'm just saying that the only evidence that they could present that would show that Aaron Dillard actually read this transcript is if it was Mark Jensen, because there were only two people in the cell at the time when Aaron Dillard was reading the stuff. Aaron Dillard will testify as to what he was reading, and he'll testify he was reading the transcript of Ed Klug's testimony from the forfeiture hearing.
Well, let me ask this question. You said, I thought you were going to play the whole interview.
No, that would be over 4 hours.
All right. So you're going to play 45 minutes.
We got plenty of interviews.
Yes, we're just going to play
Pre-recorded
there's a
footage.
variety of sections of it that we're going to play.
So I'll go back to the defense. Exactly what are you going to ask this lieutenant? Is it about statements he made outside of the interview?
No, outside of the 45 minutes that are going to be played, but part of the interview. I mean, I'll just tell you, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 5 statements that he made.
Give me the 5 statements as an offer of proof.
Okay.
Remind you, the jury is out of
By
the
way,
room
Your
right
Honor, for the
now.
record, the state will stipulate that he made those statements. We've got them on video. And
I think they still have the right, even if you stipulate, they still have the right to ask the
they
question.
don't have the right to ask the question unless it's relevant, and they've got to show its relevance.
think I've been-
I'd say this. The state made this relevant in their opening statement by saying that Aaron Dillard, there's no other place he could have gotten this information. And we will show, and we'll have to show, otherwise we won't have an argument, a closing argument on this. We'll have to show that Aaron Dillard had an opportunity to get this information from someone other than Mark Jensen.
I'm gonna let it in, just to be safe. I've been tough on the defense for relevance. And I think the last time I said it goes to the weight. And if it's 5 questions, what this witness said in the interview, I think it's an appropriate area to get into. So let's bring the jury back and we will continue.
Man, so a lot of the hearsay stuff they're talking about is that's a difficult one to work with because you do have to have basically proof that the the um, the evidence came from the source that you're claiming, which is why they have evidentiary findings that are ruling out the letter from. Well, at first they ruled out the letter from the grave from Julie Jensen, Mark's deceased wife. We're going to go ahead and say his murdered wife. And but then they ruled it back in because they said that the reason that they weren't able to use that evidence was because of something that the murderer or that Mark had done. So basically, he killed her, so she wasn't able to be there to testify to the relevancy of that letter. So the assailant in this case was, and then a judge overturned that and said, no, actually, we feel like that letter should be admissible, put him back in jail. And now they're saying again that they got the retrial. So they're going to retrial it without the letter and a few other key pieces of evidence that were voicemails to the one of the detectives or an officer. But so much other evidence that's going into this. And the testimony from Julie, or not Julie, but from his paramour, from his ex, from Kelly Brooks, Jensen, Labonnet, or whatever her name is now, was wild. That was
We're
intense.
back on the record again on Mark
But again, this is
Jensen,
Mark Jensen. This is
2002
day
CF
5.
314.
Share the stream if you would, please.
Jury's back in the courtroom.
And yeah, just share the stream. Appreciate it, guys. If you're not able to contribute stars on Facebook or super chats or super stickers to help support what I do here, just share the stream if you would and set up notifications. Maybe tell a friend, whatever it might be. But that would definitely be that'd be helpful. So yeah, appreciate you guys. And apparently we're dealing with a little bit of a technical difficulty here. So let's see what we can figure out on our stream. It may not be us. It might be, but let's find out. Let's do this.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming back on time. Again, we had a short delay. We had to do some work here. We were actually working, so I want you to know that. So the witnesses.
This is kind of a no-nonsense judge as well, which I appreciate. Much like Judge Schroeder, who the original.
Well, I will very shortly, but there are some additional questions.
All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Was originally presided over this case.
So, I'm going to address you as by your title upon retirement, Detective Lieutenant Ratsberg. Sometime after the autopsy, you did get information back from the state crime lab concerning the contents of the computer that you'd seized from Mark Jensen's residence. Is that true?
Yes.
And so there was some of the information that was on there related to email communications between Mark Jensen and Kelly Labonte.
Yes.
And what kind of inference or what kind of suspicions developed in your mind after reading those emails?
Well, they seem to be having a romantic affair and seem to have a personal relationship.
And in a case where one spouse is suspected of murdering the other, the fact that the suspect's spouse has a girlfriend prior to and at the time of the homicide, that's relevant information.
It can be very suspicious.
So did you at some point decide then to go talk to Mark Jensen about this information?
Yes.
Now, when you went to talk to Mark Jensen, you didn't initially tell him all this additional information that you had, did you?
I did not.
And that's a common thing when you're going to interview a person who's suspected of a crime.
Yes.
You want to have more information in your mind than they think that you have.
Yes.
And furthermore, just to explain this to the jury, can you tell us about some of the kind of techniques that a law enforcement officer may use, or techniques that you did employ in this interview with Mark Jensen?
Well, when I interviewed Mark Jensen, I did a couple of things. One, I was expecting him to lie to me because he was denying any of the pornographic photos being left around the house. In fact, I did chit chat with him about it, and he had that. So after 5 years of telling the police department that no, he knew nothing about it. And then to come in that day and say, yes, I did it, I didn't find that to be obvious that that'll happen. So some of the decisions I made, one was to play good cop, bad cop, and I also lied to him during the interview. I told him certain things, and one in particular was information that came back from the crime lab. And that's commonly done and is part of our training in law enforcement, that we can lie to suspects trying to get the truth and what it is. And sometimes we play good cop, bad cop. And all that is designed to have the suspect or the person you're interviewing or questioning to tell the truth.
Now, at some point, for example, in this interview, you had confronted Mark Jensen, and you told him that you'd sent some of these photographs that had been left around that residence in the years preceding Julie's death, that you had sent that to the state crime lab, and they compared handwriting on that to his handwriting, and they concluded it was a match. You told them that, correct?
Yes, I did.
But that's false. I mean, the state crime lab had never done such an analysis, had they?
That is true. No, they did not.
So you lied to you lied to Mark Jensen about these the handwriting, these photographs, in order to elicit information from Mark Jensen.
Yes, I did.
So I'm going to play some of these interview clips now to you and ask you. I'm going to play a clip and then I'm going to ask you about it. Okay?
Thank you.
He's like, but it's not going to be a real clip. You have to figure it out. Man, that's wild.
Deputy District Attorney Carly McNeil is going.
It's just wild to hear him say it like that, you know, like. And then I lied to him.
This is State's Exhibit 26, Your Honor, the first clip.
Thank you.
I do notice some of these on here don't have your name on it. Emails? Okay. From, I don't know, you probably saw it when it come through there. It's here. And, is there a date on these? 10/12, 98, okay. Who's Kelly? I'll let you email her, I'm assuming. Yes. Who's Kelly?
Actually, I think this was stuff off of. Well, it was actually at Steeple. Who? This is all work stuff that I was accessing.
Oh, well, I mean, Peter Forway, that's right.
That was, actually, she is my boss's secretary.
Oh, so she is in Racine now.
No, she is in the same office.
Is she a friend of yours?
Yeah.
You own her?
Well, since I've done that, I'm sure she's my boss.
Okay. And that's what, you know, this is all work related here. I didn't see work related one, to be honest with you. Can you think of a couple different, I'm trying to find some more here.
He's talking about putting her cheeks on the desk and whatnot. So, yeah. What kind of job does he have? Just curious.
You know, like here's Kelly.
Yeah, dude, he doesn't age much. That dude's 63 years old.
Don't want to work. I just want to beat on my drums all day.
My drums all day.
Let me. You got a better drum?
Song, no, also.
Okay.
Just by, you know, the market being weird and stuff like that.
Okay. But these are emails that you sent to her, she sent to you, not from Julie or anything like that. These are actual.
All right.
Okay. Because when we were talking earlier, you said you didn't notice anything here, and maybe you skimmed over these here. Here's some other ones here. This is back September 4th. And it was all again like that. Those are all emails that you guys can confer back and forth on.
Yeah.
This one here is a repeat on it. I was wondering,
I don't think it's slow, you know, just get a ton of emails. They don't come all over the company.
you know, how did this end up on your home computer? I guess that's where you're losing me. I don't
I had probably one night access to that because.
You could have called up from your computer, you could have called up to Racine and then downloaded this to your computer.
It was actually out of St. Louis. You could get email on there. They said they changed the system.
It's the internet. It's a crazy thing.
I was on the internet. You need to check your email or something like that. You could do that from home. Okay. And that was, they shut down that part of the system that had problems with it.
So actually you were at home then, like, let's say you're on, I can't see that, but, you got September 4th, 1998 at 1:26 PM, you were home, and then you called up this, work with me here, and these were the messages that you guys exchanged.
Yes, it would have been something from, you email somebody and you email back and you get like this long thing going. Respond to them. And
I'm just looking here, I'm curious, on Friday, September 4th, don't want to work, I just want to beat on my drums all day, hope it doesn't come to that. I'm going to have to go home and try to fix my high maintenance woman. I listened to a message from you to Kelly, if I, if I stopped and got Titanic on the way home, wonder if I could get her to sit next to me on the couch, low expectation. Was it Kelly a girlfriend of yours, or?
no, just a friend. She was,
They're really giving us the business right now. I think it might have been on there and they were having issues.
Now, there was a transcript made of that recording. Is that true?
Yes,
And you've compared the transcript to the original?
yes,
And the transcript is a true and accurate rendition of what was said.
yes.
And I have to say the sound quality on that was not the best. The sound quality, apparently not the sound quality here.
She
either.
said what?
The sound quality there was not the best, correct?
Yes, sir.
So I'm going to ask you to take a look at the screen. Now, is that big enough for you to see that? Or I suppose I could make it a little bit bigger here.
You know what's crazy is they were trying to do the photos that Julie Jensen took of his day planner, and I'm watching the original trial, and they were using that exact same overhead projector thing. They were like holding the thing and moving it around like the prosecutor, the DA was doing. He was like, dude, even the judge was like, could you just zoom out, man? Like you're killing me with this way too close stuff. And he's like, I guess if you can see it. And then the guy behind the detective was like, yeah, you can see it fine.
Yes, I can.
They're using
So
the exact
first
same thing,
question
however many years
You're
ago.
talking about these emails that you
08.
found
So
on the
they have
from
better
the
technology.
State Crime Lab sent back to you, correct?
Yes,
These were on Mark Jensen's home computer.
yes,
And you're getting to this issue about whether or not Mark Jensen and Kelly Levante are having a sexual relationship at around the time of Julie's death, correct?
yes,
So you posed the question. I do notice some of these on here, though, have your name on it, emails. Answer, okay. That's what you asked him, and that's what he said?
yes.
And then you asked let me find one here. You probably saw it when you thumbed through here.
Right. It's
Answer,
the original
yeah.
internet too.
Question, these here, is there a date on these? 10/12. Question, 12/98. Okay. Which was about a month before. Yeah. Who's Kelly? That's you emailing her, I'm assuming. Answer, yeah. Question, who's Kelly? Actually, I think this was stuff it was actually at Stifle. So instead of telling you who's Kelly, he's redirecting and talking about I think this was stuff at Stifle, correct?
Yes.
And then you ask who, and answer is, this was all work stuff that I was accessing. And you reply, oh, you're over my head here, and laughter. And then he finally answers the question. Actually, she is my boss's secretary, correct?
Yes.
And you ask, oh, so she's in Racine now? Answer, no, she's in St. Louis. Okay. Is she a friend of yours? Answer, yes. Question, you've known her? Answer, well, since I've been there, and she is my boss's assistant. So again, he's trying to make it sound as though this is just work related. Kelly Labonte, I mean, yeah, just a...
Judge, I do object to the state's characterization of just interpreting these things instead of just asking the question.
Why don't you rephrase it and ask questions, Mr. Jam?
So your purpose at that time was to ask him about his relationship with Kelly Labonte, correct?
Yes.
And he's just telling you all kinds of things about Kelly Labonte, except that she's his girlfriend. Right?
Yes.
So you ask a question now, and I guess what, this is all work related here. It didn't seem work related, Mark, to be honest with you. Can you think of a couple of different, I'm trying to find some more here. So here's some here, like here's Kelly, and that's September 4th. Question, I don't want to work. I just want to beat on my drums all day. Answer, beat on my drums all day. Question, what does that mean? You got a set of drums? Answer, that's an old song. No, it's an old song. Q, okay. Answer, just about, the market being weird and stuff like that. Question, okay, but these are emails that you sent to her or she sent to you, not from Julie or anything like that. These are actual, answer, right. Because when we were talking earlier, you said you didn't notice anything here, and maybe you just skimmed over these here. Here's some other ones here. This is back September 4th. And all again like that. Those are all emails that you guys conferred back and forth on. Answer, yeah. Question so like this one here is a repeat on it. There was one there. Answer, when things get slow, we just get a ton of emails. Okay. How did this? Answer, they're from all over the country. Question, how did this end up on your home computer? I guess that's where you're losing me. I don't understand. Answer, I probably one night accessed that because... Question, you could have called this up from your computer, or you would have called up to Racine and downloaded this to your computer? Answer, it was actually out of St. Louis. You could get email out there. They suddenly changed the system, and you can't get in there anymore. But there was a time when I could, if I was out in the afternoon and if you needed to check your email or something like that, you could do that from home. Answer, okay. Answer, and that was, they shut down that part of the system because we were having problems with it. Question, okay, so actually you were at home then. Like, let's say here I can't see that far, but you got September 4th, 1998 at 1:26 p.m. You were at home and then you called up this stuff, work with me here. These were the messages that you guys exchanged? Answer, yeah, it would have been something from, how does email work? When you email somebody and then they email back, it kind of keeps it, and you get like this long thing going, and then response to that. And question, this one here on Friday, September 14th, don't want to work. I just want to beat on my drums all day. Hope it doesn't come to that. I'm going to have to go home and try to fix my high maintenance woman. This is a message from you to Kelly. Answer, if I stopped and got Titanic on the way home, wonder if I could get her to sit next to me on the couch. Low expectations. Answer, Was Kelly a girlfriend of yours? Or answer, no, just a friend.
If you don't watch Titanic with somebody when they bring it home in
1999,
VHS or DVD or
you
Blu-ray,
raised this issue about Kelly Labonte.
Laserdisc, you're not
Mark
a normal
Jensen
human
told
being.
you she was just a friend.
Correct.
Say she's just a friend. Oh, baby, you watching
Second
Titanic.
clip.
Yeah, that was the AOL dial-up sound. It's just crazy to me. He said, "How does the internet work?"
I mean, Julie had an affair before, and I thought maybe you two would be having an affair here with Kelly. Or maybe are you seeing her now? Kelly now?
No, I have. Okay. I mean, now I have.
So she's your girlfriend now, or at least somebody you're dating?
Friends
Is that
are,
a fair statement of dating, or what
I
do you
guess you just call it maybe a date, dating, but, not, she's a friend hanging around together,
Well, when you say friend, was she a friend like that? She's a friend now, somebody that you date right now, right?
No, I wouldn't, back then, no.
Okay.
No, I think that was not. No, I understand where you're going, no, at that point in time.
So before Julie's death, you didn't have any type of, you had limited contact with her.
Right.
Now, since her death, what's transpired?
Went down to St. Louis a couple times, so I came up a couple times.
You guys are dating or seeing each other at this point?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, but not beforehand.
No, I mean, the time that we got back at theater would be this business function when I had around St. Louis for a meeting, like in November.
Did you call Julie from St. Louis the one time you were telling me? And that you couldn't get a hold of her or something like that?
This is all this old done with other people because they beat me from our business meeting, trying to enjoy it. And he likes me and I explained to him about that tonight. Go on and start talking to people about it. And we moved to what happened last night. Yeah, it's important. Friends in the office and things like that.
So you knew Kelly beforehand, and since Julie's death, you guys have dated and grown up. That's a fair statement.
Purple handed, huh?
Yeah, I guess fair statement, maybe,
Tanisha, stop with that Kevin Bacon talk, man.
maybe 10 or 15 days.
Mm.
Maybe sometime you guys will start dating. Because you're going to go on out to be, it's more just hang around and kids are around.
So you're trying to, I guess,
I mean, I'm
I'm trying to smart some of the kids nail on the head here. What type of, you guys are dating as a man and a woman would, maybe kissing or having sex? I don't want to pry people every year, but are you having to that extent, or is it just, hey, we're stopping at a bar and having a drink?
It's more than about at the bar.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
That's a big question.
so you guys aren't necessarily lovers, but, and I'll be honest with you, I find that a little hard to believe.
Well, we're a bit more than
Stay
friends.
overnight in St. Louis with her, and you're dating her.
There was a lot of talk about oral to begin with.
So you had her divorced or something like that. It would be hard to believe if you've seen her as often as you said you were, that there isn't something a little bit more.
Okay.
That you're sleeping together. I think that would be a reasonable assumption.
Right.
I would be, I'll be honest, and I don't know, maybe you are, or maybe you're not. I just,
She said I'd hit it.
Perfectly honest with all,
okay.
prior to everybody, prior to January, we had a business friend. Good friends, I mean, we're like,
come on.
we saw her 3 or 4 times during that period of time. We were friends during last year.
You mean 98?
98,
Okay.
And went down there in April, the office opened in June, that was open somewhere in October. But every couple months. More than it was mostly on the phone when I was talking to.
Before December.
Right, exactly.
And you met with her 3 times?
I had see her 3 times at the office open, but we were never alone because it was always a business situation.
After Julia's death, that's turned into
Something.
more of a serious relationship. Would that be a fair statement?
I guess so. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to do is quantify serious.
Yeah.
I'm 40, got 10 kids, she's like 31.
No kids?
No kids. I think I'm done where she's going, I don't know, yeah.
But your relationship's a lot more serious than it was before December. And I would assume that you're spending the night down there with her, and she's coming up here and spending the night with you here in Kenosha or Pleasant Prairie, whatever. So you have an emotional, if not a sexual, you have a sexual relationship with her, not. Yes, that would be their statement, or true statement, I should say.
We had a lot there since then,
Okay,
but there was nothing like that for
prior to. How long did you know her before?
April.
Is that when you moved, switched companies?
Correct. And again, I mean, talk to, the one that stands out here because it's on here is Kelly, but there were others too. Not others who had plans. But other girls, he had emails and banners going back
Because I didn't see any other ones there.
uh,
I don't know when I speak here, so Kelly,
okay.
are there some other ones that you communicated with?
They like going Cooper or Crystal Man. I mean, yeah, but they're all.
But they're not.
Yeah, you get a little.
So obviously you and Kelly had a little bit more, back here than the other women that you communicated with, because I don't see any of them on here. No, this one here, no, feel free. 10/12/98. I don't see, I looked through all the computers, and Kelly's the only ones that you downloaded here.
Okay.
I don't see the other girls that you mentioned. Who were they again?
Crystal Man, Dawn Cooper.
I haven't, again, we're more than free to look here.
Okay.
But I haven't, because I've been through this at least once, and those were the only ones that I saw.
It'd be the same kind of stuff, and they just be, there's nothing, it didn't reference specific court issues with the office.
And these weren't work issues here.
Right.
These were more kind of,
A little banter going back and forth.
right, some trivia, as you have it marked here, trivia questions and all that stuff that comes back on.
Yeah, that's what you need to exactly. You get these little emails, it's just our fun.
And this is more social than it is.
Exactly.
Uh,
That's all it is. You get
Professional.
from person to person, with jokes of the day and things like that. And we get tapped around something. And
One thing too I wanted to cover, and I forgot to mention it too before, was, when I went, these are all the reports that I, since 92. And I noticed in Julie's diary here too, was keeping notes on what was going on. Right, phone and all that stuff. And Officer Cosman primarily investigated this. I investigated it probably about 2 years ago, where I made contact with Perry. And because Julie was consistently complaining. And we eliminated Perry completely as doing any of that stuff at your home. What also Officer Cosman did,
I remember mentioning
in fact, he was out in New York at the time. She said you had some photos of Perry at your house.
Ooh, photos at the house. More penis talk here.
Okay. Now, Lieutenant Detective Ratsberg, the audio was clear on that, so I'm not going to go through line by line.
Johnette, you are not wrong. He definitely is allergic to being married, also to living wives. So,
but you start off by indicating, so I was kind of thinking that maybe this Kelly Levante was, Julie had an affair before, and I thought maybe you two would be having an affair if you're, with Kelly, or maybe you're seeing her now. Kelly, are you seeing her now, Kelly, at all? No, now I have. Now I have. Question, so she's your girlfriend now, or at least somebody you're dating?
he said, like,
Again,
do you
he's not
kiss
coming out
or
and saying-
have sex?
He's saying, answer, a friend, or question, would that be a fair statement of dating, or what do you mean? Answer, I guess you could call it maybe a dating, but that's, she's a friend. We hang around together. That's about it.
Okay.
Okay, well, when you say friend, was she a friend like that? She's a friend now? Answer, no. Or somebody to date right now, right? Answer, now I would, but back then, no. Question, okay. Answer, no, that was not, and no, I understand where you're going. And no, at that point in time, it was,
Yeah, Linda. Yeah, you don't call it dating if you're just hanging out with a friend, you know. He's jumping through a lot of hoops right now, just trying to do his best to avoid giving himself a motive.
No,
You
I
know,
mean, that was not, and no, I understand where you're going. And no, at that point in time, it was question. Okay,
you
so
ain't wrong,
before Julie's
Tanisha.
death, you didn't have any type of, you had limited contact with her? Answer, right. Question. Now, since her death, what's transpired? Answer. Well, let's see. What's the time frame here? Went down to St. Louis a couple times, saw her, she came up a couple times. Question. So you guys are dating or seeing each other at this point? Answer. Yeah, exactly. Question. Okay, but not beforehand? Answer. No. I mean, the times we got to, I'd see her would be just business functions when I go down to St. Louis for a meeting.
Friends with
Question.
benefits.
Answer, like in November. Question.
Took me a minute.
Did you call Julie from St. Louis the one time you were telling me? Answer. Exactly. And that you couldn't get a hold of her or something like that? That's answer. This is how all this opened up about our people, because I'd be eating somewhere in a business meeting trying to get Julie. Question. And I'd be late to the meeting the next morning because I was up half the night. Question. On the phone. And you start talking to people about it, and look what happened last night. It's a support group, I mean, friends in the office and things like that. Question. So you knew Kelly beforehand, and since Julie's death, you guys have dated and been going out. That's a fair statement? Fair statement? Yeah, I guess it's a fair statement. Maybe, well, it's like the kids, David made a comment the other day and said, maybe sometime you guys will start dating. Question, yeah. Answer, I mean, we really haven't gone out, it's more just hanging around. The kids are there, and it's question. So you're kind of, and I'm not trying, answer, well, question. Mark, hit the nail on the head here. What type of, you guys are dating as a man and woman would, maybe kissing or having sex, I don't want to pry being heavy here, but are you heavy to that extent? Or is it just, hey, we're stopping at a bar and having a drink? Answer, it's more like stopping at the bar. But the big question is where? Question. So you guys aren't necessarily lovers? Answer, no. Question.
Not necessarily.
And I'll be honest with you.
But we have
I find
sex.
that just a little hard to believe. If you guys stay overnight in St. Louis with her and you're dating her, I'm assuming she's single. I don't know, either that or divorced or something like that.
More like
Answer,
engaged,
divorced.
getting ready to get married.
Question. It would be hard to believe if you've seen her as often as you said you were, that there isn't something a little bit more. Answer. But if, question, that you're sleeping together, I think that would be a reasonable assumption. Answer, right. Question, I know I would be. Answer, I understand. Question, I'll be honest, and I don't know, maybe you are, maybe you're not. Answer, well, not okay. To be perfectly honest with all that. Question, okay. Answer, prior to everything, prior to January, we were just friends. Question, Answer, good friends, but friends. I mean, it was more of an acquaintance. I saw her maybe 3 or 4 times. Question, During that period of time when we were friends, it would be 88, sick last year. You mean 98? Answer, 98. I'm sorry. Okay. I went down there in April and the office opened in June. Appleton opened somewhere in October, but every couple months more than, it was mostly on the phone, I was talking to, question, before December. Answer, right, exactly. You met with her 3 times. Answer, I'd seen her 3 times since the office opened, but we were never alone because it was always business situations. Question, okay. Answer, after Julie's death? After Julie's death sometime. Question, it started to be more of a serious relationship then? Would that be a fair statement? I guess so. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to do is quantify serious. Question, yeah. Answer, I'm 40, got 2 kids. She's like 31. Question, no kids. No kids. Answer, no kids. I think I'm done. And where's she going? I don't know, and that's a question, but your relationship is a lot more serious than it was before December. Answer, exactly. Question, and I assume you're spending, I'd assume that you're spending the night down there with her and she's coming here and spending the night with you in Kenosha or Pleasant Prairie. Whatever. Answer, right. So you have an emotional, if not a sexual You have a sexual relationship with her then? Answer, yeah. Question, that would be a fair statement. Yeah, we've gone, question or true statement, I should say. True statement, we've gone there since then. Okay, but there was nothing like that prior to. Prior to, no. Prior to, no. So how long did you know her before that? Oh, from April. So during the second part of the interview, he was starting to open up a little bit about Kelly, but still dramatically understating, in fact, misrepresenting the nature of their relationship.
Yes.
I didn't hear what? But still understating or actually misrepresenting the nature of the relationship.
Yes.
I'm going to try to at the next break, I'm going to try to do a split screen so I can give you a side-by-side visual of the court proceedings as well as a walkthrough of the original walkthrough that they did when they got the report that Julie Jensen was found dead. Yeah. I'd be happy with Little Pine. Or average rhododendron. Mark Jensen Johnson.
The photo that you wrote on then, is that the one you gave to Julie? And
Might have been, usually it was a bunch of them at one time.
what did you write on the photo?
Keep in mind, guys, the noise issue is coming from their recording, not on our end. So.
Did you tell Julie you wrote on the photo?
Probably not. I mean, I did 3, 4, 5 of them, but correct.
So what you basically
But I
saying?
think that was way back, like the very beginning of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was.
This is kind of, if I recall, and again, I went through the reports here, but I recall that it was kind of all midway because this was going on for a little while. And we pretty much, I said to Julie, basically shit or get off the pot. Yeah. We'll be happy to look into this for you. We don't want somebody prowling around your house and all this and that. And the areas that they got into the house, at least according to Julie, you guys cannot figure out how this person got in there. And we absolutely ruled out Perry. Perry did not do it.
And that was Julie's paramour, the guy she cheated on Mark with.
Of you, okay, because you were pissed off about the affair, so forth and so on. So, I mean, we have all this, and for you to sit here today and tell me it wasn't me, I find very hard to believe, Mark, I'll be honest with you. Okay, I do. And it really doesn't matter if you did or not. I mean, Julie's passed on. It's not a big issue. But when I go back and I look through some of this stuff, and I see all what's happening here, and, I've been real nice to you. I treated you, and I felt sorry for you. You got a couple of kids and all that stuff. And I'm just trying to wade through this because I just want to make clear in my mind what all occurred here. Because later on, when I have somebody else ask me, I mean, I'm the police detective assigned to this case. I mean, I can't sit here and say, oh, I don't know.
I got a job to do.
And
You're
then
busting my balls.
here and basically lie to me, saying that you didn't leave around the photos when we know for sure it was your handwriting, which you admitted to, which was handwriting on your photograph, and it wasn't Perry. I don't know who else would have any type of motive to do that. You obviously are well-educated, well-versed, and you can use a computer, and the pictures appear to be at the crime lab, but they were somehow, and this is over my head too a little bit, is superimposed on there. And so I don't know who else would have left them photos around besides you. And it doesn't matter here. No, I guess what matters a little bit to me, and I feel a little hurt here, is that, I'm trying to help you out here, and, trying to look through this with you, let you know what's going on, what we have here, and you're not being 100% with me. No, I just want you to cooperate with me so we can get down to the bottom. Now, you left the photos around there, right? Am I right on that? Can you give me that? Did you leave some of them there?
There were times when I get stuff in the mail. I wouldn't give it to her initially because it would cause a great deal of upset and that wasn't helping us. There were times I just threw them away when I got them, but I mean, in terms of having the photos.
Did you leave them around? Did you leave them around the house?
No. No, I did not. I mean, absolutely not. I mean, but there were times when I would just throw them away, when I would get them someplace like in the garage for a while, and then bring them home. So she knew what was going on.
I guess it's so that I'm clear here, I don't understand.
In terms of,
You would get a photograph in the mail with her in it, showing her with a man's penis.
yeah, and that was the stuff that was very early on. I got that in the mail at the office,
Okay,
in the mail.
okay.
And I remember one of the girls, this was way, way back,
Yeah.
coming in with an envelope full of pictures, my secretary going, don't even want to know what that was about.
And then with Julie's picture on it?
Yeah.
Okay. And then what did you do with the photograph from work?
That was all very early on, and that was given to her. And I gave it to Julie. At one point, there was a whole garbage bag of stuff that maybe make you realize that she had found stuff around the house too.
But the photograph,
In terms of me, I don't know, I mean, I didn't have the pictures to do anything with it. I mean, they'd be there, she found them. She did find them. They were left around the house. I thought that she would find it in the shed. Then like that.
and you put them there in the shed for her to find?
No, I would give them to her. I never put them around the house for her to find them. If I got them in the mail, I mean, I know I didn't give her everything right away. Some of it I just threw away. I understand what you said. I lied down about that if I got this. This was over a period of 92 to 5 years.
I guess, and again, when I'm talking to you here, it seems like you're all skirting the outsides here, okay? I can't get a kind of a straight answer from you on those remarks, okay? So I end up having 100 more questions.
I'm not trying to do that.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to nail the hammer on the head here with a nail, okay? I'm trying to get right to the point here. You're telling me, in a roundabout way, that you get these photographs with Julie sucking a man's penis at work. Okay? You would bring that photograph home and leave it around for her to find, or you would show it to her. Now, before you said you would leave it around for her to find, so you were leaving some of the photographs around the house.
Evidently, though,
I mean, you just told
the
me
guy she
earlier
cheated on him with
that.
was sending
Now you're
photos.
saying to me it did.
So we're not sure if he was printing them out and leaving them or if the guy was sending them to her. So.
I mean, I just kind of want to get through this, Mark, I'll be honest with you. We can get through this, because it's a curiosity, I guess, I have to satisfy in my own mind, because anybody looks through here, see, this is all of them. I mean, we got, 96, 93, all of them from here. Julie and Mark Jensen, Perry, here's that one, back in 93. And I was always under the opinion that you were leaving the photographs around the house. Was always under that opinion, okay? The crime lab says this. The only one that seemed not to believe it was Julie. She's now passed on. I understand, and I sit here today and I'm saying to myself, why would Mark lie to me about this when it really, number one, doesn't matter. And number two, you left the pictures around the house. I mean, there's no question about that in my mind. And you come into it saying, well, yeah, I did some, but I didn't do all of them, and all that. Let's hit the nail on the head here and move on. Let's put this issue down. It's not like you did anything wrong, okay? It's just
I understand, but
some record things that we gotta keep track of here. So, Tell me straight, Mark.
I don't know where the pictures came from. They were left on the truck. It wasn't in the mailbox. I'm sure at times when I did something with the pictures I had written down, we're talking about a 5-year period of time against the remember. I started having it through away. There were times that there was a time I go to the shed. Pick up back in the shed.
And again, the static is on there, and it's just an old recording. I've still got issues of where Mark was from the time Julie died to today. Like, at what points was he in jail when he was not? I'm looking it up as much as possible, and I see, like, you know, the appellate proceedings and everything else that happened, but it's so convoluted, man.
So for the most part, you left the photos around the house for her to find or for you to find when you in fact got it at work, but you said you found it in the work shed?
Exactly. I did a stack. It was very upsetting memory. When we never came to the forefront, our relationship suffered for it.
So at one point, you were telling her that, well, this is you and Perry doing it, when in fact you didn't know that for sure, that it was just.
Those are pictures I got.
Okay, here we go.
Of all the pictures that you had there that you left around the house, how many did you leave around the house? There were quite a few pictures that you left.
There were. I can't even begin to quantify.
I think more than 10, less than 10? I think it's probably more than 10.
Oh, it's definitely more than 10.
Yeah.
So it's definitely. Now, but you know, when I would do that, I get this stuff, we're trying to hang on to it from an evidence standpoint. I mean,
Well, she turned the majority of them over to Officer Cosner.
right.
And at that point, reading through these reports, you realized that you guys suspected Perry did it, but in fact you were doing it. You know, that was pretty much along the lines of our suspicion. You know, I find it hard to believe that I'm sitting here today talking about it. Again, we're talking 5-6 years ago, that you left the majority of them pictures around the house. One, you said you found them, in fact, you really did, you had them from work or wherever.
Or I did find them around the house, because I did. I mean, I did find them around the house, but it was a question of showing them to her. I mean,
and you ended up showing the majority of them to her.
exactly, yeah.
Although they, go ahead, please.
How many times do I see pictures like that and get reminded of it? Or they just kind of, you know, it's so old, you put it away. I put them away, and then something would happen, I get pissed off, and yeah, I pull them out, and I found it in the shop.
In fact, you had.
I had, yeah, I mean, they accumulate them for weeks.
Now, why would somebody send that to you in the mail? I don't understand that. I mean, we cleared Perry of doing it. Okay, we went and talked to him and all that. Now, if they were sent to you at work, there would have to be a mailing. I mean, this is the first, reading through these reports, this is a little bit different than what the police reports have to say here, is pretty much police reports say that you found the photos all over the house when we know now that you didn't. If they mailed them to your office, who was mailing to? There has to be a return mail on there. I mean, if we would have known that at the time, we could have, postmark. We could have done a lot more with it at that time, but you didn't tell us about that. Am I right, or did I miss something?
No, the ones were mailed to the office were early on, the first year or two. That was when I was in Creation of Milwaukee. That was when I got stuff in the mail. That, I can't recall what the time frame that was. But it's not, there was stuff left around the house.
So somebody, what you're saying is some of the stuff you left, go ahead, please.
Some of the stuff I'd give to it. And then I'd say, I found it in the shed. And it'd be a way of giving it to her when And he called the interest the phone call, I know it's what he told me that at one point. It was thought I was making a phone call. And you have to be sitting on a couch in the living room together. Over the phone, right? I mean, you couldn't possibly been sitting there with her, but you knew it wasn't me. There's times with the pictures, I know.
So you misled her, which in turn misled
But
the
holy
police.
place, yes, I mean, it was not a malicious standpoint, it was.
You were pissed off at her.
Pissed off at her.
And you were pissed off about that relationship she had with Perry.
Right. Because our relationship was never really quite, well, she was never quite. She changed after that, like, I don't know.
Mark, you know, just, as we're going through this, just be straight with it.
I'm trying to be,
Yeah,
not all black and white.
I
Just be straight with me, he says.
So in that exchange, you were trying to get
Everybody looks exactly the same, man. Maybe you don't age between the age of 45 and 50, 60.
Yes.
And he did own up to some of it,
I hope that's the case.
but he didn't own up to all of it.
Correct.
He was still denying that he was the source of these photos.
Yes.
He diagnosed.
And he
Not that we know
indicated
of.
at that time that he'd received some of them in the mail at the office, correct?
Good
Yes.
question. Good
And
question.
You talked to people at his office, right?
I did.
And none of them ever saw any photos like that in the mail.
That is correct. Yes.
And you learned that in these stockbrokers' offices, the stockbrokers are not allowed to open their own mail. Is that true?
Including personal mail. Yes.
At a stockbroker's office, all of the mail is opened by a single person at the front of the office, correct?
Correct.
And you interviewed those people.
I did.
And nobody ever received any photos like that in the mail.
They did not.
Man. Times
Now
is
we're gonna go
changing,
to the
man.
next interview segment.
I'm just reading through the trial and the appellate proceedings and whatnot, and it's wild, guys. It's just wild how this all worked out, how they're able to flip flop on evidentiary findings with the letter, with the voicemails, what they will accept, what they won't accept. How this guy goes from convicted in 2008 to life in prison without parole, with the support of his children saying that they wanted him to have a parole date option, even though he's found guilty of killing their mother. I mean, either they believe that he didn't do it, or, mind you, they were 8 and 13 when it happened, but I'm sure his conversation with them were different. And then they had a judge flip that over and say, actually, no, we are going to find that they had the autopsy report, found ethyl glycol in the ethylene glycol in her system, changed it to homicide, and found him guilty of murder in 2008 on February 22nd. After 30 hours of deliberation, he was sentenced in Kenosha County Court by Bruce Schroeder, OG Judge Schroeder, and given life without the possibility of parole. Then in 2013, a judge overturned Jensen's conviction and ordered he be released from prison within 90 days. The court agreed with Jensen's argument that the state use of his dead wife's words violated his constitutional right to confront witnesses testifying
Closing,
against him.
Tim, the following question I'm directing.
So in
court counsel's
2013,
attention to page 55,
he was released,
lines
right? So
12
he's in jail for
through 17.
5 years, prison for 5 years.
Do you recall posing the following question and getting the following answer? Question: you didn't make them? Answer: I did not make them. I received them. I mean, I did. This is the reason. I mean, that's the way I found out about the whole thing, was I got actual photographs. And then question, line 16. Okay.
Oh, that's how we found out about her affair?
In the mail from them at the office.
Oh.
And you recall posing those questions and receiving those answers also in this interview?
Yes.
8 and 3. Yeah, sorry about that. Thank you, Jenny Lynn.
Now
I
I'm going to direct you
appreciate that.
to the
His children were
next clip.
8 and 3 when this happened, right? Were they 8 and 13?
I mean, I did it for a reason.
Late 20s and early 30s, whatever that math is.
I got actual photographs.
Did he bond out until the trial in 2008? I'm trying to figure that out for myself right now, guys. I'm doing some, yeah.
And that was a repeat of what I just read to you, correct?
I'm trying to figure it out.
Do you think that I have the pictures of them? And just put on a half machine constantly, because, you know, I don't know.
You know more about it than I do.
I mean,
I like to go by what I read here.
oh, I did not do that. I mean, I was not taking the pictures, jotting them, printing them, whatever, and dribbling along for 5 years. I mean, that
But
was,
you were dribbling some of them.
it'd be over a period of what I'm talking about, in that standpoint, it was accumulating for maybe 3 weeks, a month, maybe 2 months.
Mhm.
And you'd end up with a little pile of them. And we were trying to keep this stuff from the evidence standpoint, or they were keep it away from that. But, yeah, I did this off and down, I said, I mean, I'm not trying to mislead you, but it was a question of, did I received this?
Yeah, you guys remember this is way back. I believe this interrogation, I believe, is in 98, right? After she was found dead, or it's just before. I think they might have brought him in before the 2008 when they decided to retry the case or try the case as a murder when the autopsy report came back as homicide. In 08, that's probably when they brought him in for questioning because he's in a suit. Maybe they picked him up at work, whatever. Right. It's getting hot in here. He got Kelly pregnant in 04, so he must have bonded out from his arrest in 02. So in 98, she was killed, and I don't think he was arrested in 02.
Flag for January 18th, 2023. It's very warm.
The interrogation is in
It's even
April
warmer
99.
inside the courtroom than it is outside the courtroom. Okay, so directing your attention to the screen, the answer was.
So he was in lockup from 99 to 2002?
Question, I don't know, Mark. Put them on a copy machine constantly because, you know, question, I don't know. You know more about it than I do. You were there. I can only go by what I read here. Paul, let me tell you, I didn't do that. I mean, I was not taking the pictures, copying them, printing them, whatever, and dribbling them out over 5 years. I mean, that was question, but you were dribbling some of them out. Answer, it'd be over a period. And what I'm talking about from that standpoint, it was accumulating them for maybe a period of weeks or a month, maybe 2 months. Question, answer, and you'd end up with a little pile of them. Question, answer, and we were trying to keep this stuff from an evidence standpoint. Otherwise, I have no reason to keep it. It was just been thrown in the garbage. Question, yeah. Answer, but yeah, I'd get pissed off, and then I'd say I found them. I mean, I'm not trying to mislead you, but it was a question of, did I receive this stuff? I'd accumulate it.
So he's arrested in 02, bonded out, and then didn't go to trial until 08. Took 6 years to get him into trial. Is that what we're saying, Dave? I might have nodded off when I was watching a part of that.
We have a rocky marriage, you know, and I'm not sure whether to believe you here or not because you kind of misled me here on some of this other stuff. You talk a lot and you don't say anything, you know? And I wish you
talk a lot.
Something happened with Julie that day.
He's talking trash.
I'm willing to work with you here. I mean, I've taken very patient, been very calm here with you, with your family, your case, and all that stuff. And we need to come up with some type of explanation here, and you're the only one that can provide that explanation. Did you guys have an argument? Were you guys playing around? I don't know what happened. You know, she could get a.
About mom's condition that morning. She couldn't get out of bed. She wanted to stay home because mom was sick. We did nothing. You know, there was no sexual thing going on that morning. There was nothing happening. She was in bed.
Did you get mad at her or something? Were you pissed off? I mean, you got mad at her before and you used the photographs around the house. No? I mean, did you get mad this time and, Julie, damn it, wake up or something?
Well, the photographs I'm talking about is we have a little argument about something, and I bring up the pictures that had been given to us.
Now, directing your attention to the screen, and we're talking about maybe 2/3 of the way down on page 70, it's line 18 through line 25. At this point, you're raising the question what happened on the morning of December 3rd. Is that true?
Yes, that is correct.
The morning of Julie's death.
That is correct.
Kelly was 30, huh? Okay.
And you pose the question, okay, we have a rocky marriage, and I'm not sure whether to believe you here or not because you kind of misled me here on some of this other stuff. Answer, on the pictures and that. Question, well, you talk a lot and you don't say anything, and I wish you'd just come out. Now,
You got that right,
if
Sonia.
something happened with Julie the day of the 3rd, I'm
Damn.
willing to work with you here. I
Right on.
take very patient and very calm here with you, with your family, your case, and all that stuff. And we need to come up with some type of an explanation.
This drives me nuts. We just
And
watched
you're
it.
the
Why do they
only
have to
one
read
that
it?
Can provide that explanation. Did you guys have an argument? Were you guys playing around? I don't know what happened. Answer, Paul, there was nothing. There was nothing. Question, answer. She couldn't get out of bed that morning. Question, Answer, I'd hate to have it come to that, but you can ask David. Question, Answer, about mom's condition that morning. Question, Answer, she couldn't get out of bed. He wanted to stay home because mom was sick. We did nothing. There was no sexual thing going on that morning. Question, Answer, there was nothing happening. She was in bed, asleep. Did you get mad at her or something? Were you pissed off? You got answer, no. Question, mad at her before and you used the photographs around the house, did you get mad this time? And, Julie, damn it, wake up or something. Answer, no, Paul. Those photographs I'm talking about is we'd have a little argument about something and I bring up the pictures that had been accumulated. So that was about the 3rd, and then it transitioned into this discussion again about the photographs.
I think we got it kind of figured out.
Years preceding Julie's
Dave, thanks
death.
for the help on that, man.
Correct.
Now I'm going to proceed to transcript to the
Diane.
number
Yeah,
7.
Diane, thank you. Hitting the span of a nut.
What, you're the only one that can explain anything here, and I don't know what the answer is, and you do. I'm thinking there's an accident. What happened that morning? Let's go through that morning. What happened before you left? So let's kind of try to have this framed in my mind. Let's go back to right up. 6:30 in the morning.
Right, okay,
She's not feeling well.
right.
Okay, go from there. We're gonna feel what happened that day.
She was not able to get out of bed. She was driving.
Got tangerine going. He's getting pissed. Son of a bitch, just tell me what I want you to
How
know.
was it?
She was having a hard time. How old was she? It was a very deep breath.
Okay. And you could hear phlegm or something like that, and,
It sounded like the windpipe was being restricted. She was hardly, I'm not even sure she was coherent.
she sat up in bed.
She sat in her bed.
Okay.
David tells me that, we talked about it. David tells me that I was holding her, supporting her. And I guess I recall that I was sitting in the bed behind her, with the kids were on the bed sitting, kissing her.
Good morning, or whatever.
Good morning. Yeah. And she was not even able to, she didn't get up, so.
When you said chick, was she talking or hardly? She was sitting up in bed, so she had some strength. She's sitting up in bed, but you guys talked that morning or what?
Right, very, very weak. No, I think that was kind of.
Yeah, dude's super good. I mean,
She indicated that she was okay. But she, you know, she was not able to move around and function. She took the other sleeping pill. Yeah, the kids went to school.
How many should take in total? This is the first one, that's the Atrium, right? So this would be your second one? She took one the night before, right? And now she's taking it out.
I think this was the third.
Okay.
First one was the morning, second one was the night, third one was the Thursday.
Okay. As prescribed.
Right.
Okay.
And she was asleep. Well, on the bed, she went to sleep. I went to work, came home, and she was gone. And she hadn't moved.
Now, you were home from 7, we started at 7:30, now all of a sudden we jumped to noon or 1 o'clock, somewhere in that time frame. There was a lot of stuff that happened in between there.
During the morning, but she was just,
She was sleeping that whole morning?
she was asleep.
Now, when you went to work, did you wake her up and tell her you went to work? Okay, you just left for work. She slept from, she got up 7:30-ish. Okay, kids said good morning, kids go to school?
Kids went to school. Okay. I took them to preschool, and we got on the bus.
Okay. And you took him the day to preschool and came back?
Right.
Okay. And then what did you do at the house during the day?
Talked to the office, so I went around and I gave them a check on the clients, and it was good. And after I ran out for that, I came back again.
Okay, which client did you pick the check on?
Ed Codlin.
Who?
Ed Codlin.
Codlin?
Codlin.
Codlin.
Yeah.
So you didn't actually go back home then? You went home and then you went back out?
Correct.
Okay. You called the office then on the 3rd. Then you went to Coughlin and got a check from him. Where does he live?
Down the street. Lake Shore, yeah, 116.
Okay.
There's a court, yeah, I think it was mailed back.
Okay. He was aware of that ahead of the time, left it out there for you, I would assume? Okay, then what?
Went back home.
She still sleeping?
Still sleeping?
You didn't touch her?
No.
Hi, how are you? I'm home. You need something to drink, something to eat?
No.
Nothing.
I'm sure I know I went there and checked on it.
So directing your attention to the screen, you started out your interview by, or this portion of the interview was saying, I don't know what the answer is, and you do. I'm thinking there's an accident. At the time you made that statement, I'm thinking there's an accident. Were you actually thinking there was an accident?
No, I wasn't.
You were actually thinking something quite different than that.
Yes, I was. I was trying to make it easier for Mark Jensen to tell the truth or to tell me what actually happened.
So you're basically inviting him to provide you with some explanation of an accidental death.
Yes. And I also couldn't rule out the possibility that there was an accident, but I wanted to cover all the areas.
And so the question continued, I'm thinking there's an accident. What happened that morning? Let's go through that morning. What happened before you left? Answer, she could hardly sit up in bed. That was your question, his answer?
Yes, that's correct.
And then you ask a little later, you ask the question, okay, go from there. We got to feel what happened that day. Answer, she was not able to get out of bed. I mean, she was groggy, almost incoherent. Breathing was very labored and raspy. That's the question that you posed, and that's the answer that he gave?
Yes.
And then later you asked the question, okay, and you could hear phlegm or something like that. Okay, answer. It sounded like the windpipe was being restricted. So he acknowledges that that morning on December 3rd, it sounded to him as though her windpipe were restricted.
Yes.
In response to the question, the answer he provided was, she was hardly, I'm not even sure if she was coherent. Question, she sat up in bed. Answer, she sat up in bed. Question, okay. David tells me that we talked about it. David tells me that I was holding her up. Question, answer, supporting her. Answer, I guess I recall that. I was sitting on the bed behind her as the kids were on the bed sitting, kissing her. Good morning. Question, good morning or whatever. Answer, good morning, yeah. And she was not even able to, she didn't even get up to go. I should have called that morning. She was in sad shape. Question, what do you mean sad shape? She was talking or answer, hardly. Question, she was sitting in bed, so she had some strength. She's sitting in bed. What do you guys talk that morning or what? Answer, but very, very weak. No, I mean, we had no conversation. I mean, I had to say she indicated that she was okay. Question, okay, then what happened? But she was not able to move around and function. She took the other sleeping pill after the kids went to school. And then you go through the Ambien, and he indicates that she took a total of 3 Ambien, one Wednesday morning. Yeah, the first one Wednesday morning, the second one Wednesday night, and the third one Thursday morning. That's what he described to you?
Yes.
And again, the question is posed at line 10. Question, she was sleeping that whole morning? Answer, she was sleeping. She was asleep. Question, but she got up 7:30-ish? Answer, right. Question, okay, the kids said good morning. The kids go to school? Answer, the kids went to school. So now we'll go to the next video clip.
Yeah, in that area.
Okay, she was asleep on the sleeping pill. She was like out.
Asleep on the sleeping pill.
She took a sleeping pill.
Okay,
She was out.
Okay.
To move her required
A lot of force.
a lot of effort. Yeah, like take her up.
Okay. Mark, how about this?
I think she was laying on her back. I was fine breathing. I remember. I think I rolled her onto her side when she was asleep.
Why would you roll her on her side while she's sleeping?
She was getting the babies and the kids. You don't want to let them back because they cough and
Okay.
What's up? Thanks for jumping
Now you
in.
rolled her up on her side, kind of like the way we found her.
Right. I mean,
You may have or I did.
I did, but I may have put her in that position, and that's where she was. I mean, if there's an arm play, it might be because I rolled her over when she was out on the sleeping pill that morning.
Okay. So now, about the time I think it's before you left for work.
Yeah.
Before noon,
Before now.
you're picking her up because she's breathing funny and putting her up on her side. Okay.
Rolling over, she was. Yeah, because that morning I was in behind her. And you're right about that. I was in behind her. She was sitting on the bed with the head put behind her. But when the kids went to school, I laid her back down, and she was on her back.
And you rolled her up to her side.
And I grabbed her and rolled her over.
So once again, you're later in the interview, you're talking with him about her condition on the morning of December 3rd.
Yes, December 3rd, 1998.
And the answer he provides, okay, she was asleep on a sleeping pill. She was like out. Question, sleep on a sleeping pill? Answer, she took a sleeping pill that morning. Answer, and you said, okay, and answer, she was out. And then you asked, to move a required, answer, you said, oh, I'm sorry, question is okay, answer, to move a required, and then you interrupted and said, question, a lot of force, and he replied, answer, a lot of effort. Correct?
Correct.
And then question, okay, Mark, how about this? Answer, I think she was laying on her back and with funny breathing. I think I rolled her onto her side when she was asleep. And then he explained that he did that because of the baby thing with kids. You don't lay them flat on their back, correct?
Correct.
And then he confirms that when he rolled her onto her side, it was kind of like the way that you guys found her, correct?
Correct.
Now I'll proceed to clip number 9, video clip number 9.
I'm still under the opinion here that there's something accidental that took place here.
Well, you know, what I don't understand what I've been spinning on for 4 or 5 months is where what was going on with her to cause the condition she was in. I mean, she didn't get out of bed. I mean, they have to know that her physically, she was wrecked. There was nothing in her system she wasn't eating. It got to the point she was eating toilet shots. Tried to feed her, she wouldn't eat. Didn't drink water the last day. She tried Thursday morning and choked on it. Water. Couldn't get it down.
I thought she slept most of that.
She did. It was early. I think early when the kids got up. Funny breathing. I'm sure there was water or something there.
Well, she had to get up to get the water.
I brought it to her. She did not get out of bed.
So you did have some conversation. She asked you to get a glass of water.
No, I got it for her. She had nothing to say. David. And after the fact, I think she was giving me indications by nodding her head or something like that. David says that she couldn't talk that way.
We're just going to go to the next clip then. Okay. Now, again, directing your attention to the screen, you started out this phase of the questions with question. I'm still in the opinion that there's something accidental that took place here. Again, was that your opinion that there was something accidental that took place here?
Not necessarily, but I certainly wanted to rule it out also.
And once again, he indicates that she didn't get out of bed.
He does. Yes.
And again, he confirmed she did not get out of bed that morning.
Yes, that is correct.
And question, so you did have some conversation. She asked you to get a glass of water. Answer, no, I got it for her. She had nothing to say. David, after the fact, I think she was giving me indications like nodding her head or something like that, but David said she couldn't talk that morning. That's what he told you at the time of this interview on April 29th, 1999?
April 21st, 1999.
1999?
Yes.
Now we're going to clip 10.
I think one of my questions was that throughout the reports and through everything that was said and done, what happened that morning specifically?
Let me grab that phone call real quick, okay? I'll let you guys.
On the morning that she died, did she get breakfast? Did she get out of bed?
Didn't get out of bed.
She stayed in bed?
Very hard time breathing, could hardly move 2 on her own.
Okay, and what time was that?
From 6:30 on.
6:30, she was having a hard time breathing? And were you concerned that this would be something life-threatening?
I was very concerned about it.
I mean, as far as life-threatening?
Yeah. I mean, because the breathing was
Did you contact your doctor that day?
not that day. I seen him the day before. But it was a big question in my mind as to whether I have to call the ambulance that morning or bring her somewhere.
What was your routine that morning? I mean, 6:30, you noticed that she was having a hard time breathing. Did you get ready for work? I mean, did you get the kids ready?
Kids ready, given us a bus, took up to preschool, came back, got cleaned up a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
Like 9-ish, 10, something like that.
10 o'clock, you
They got a check from Columbus.
okay.
They granted it, again, exactly what it was. I remember popping out of the house a couple different times for different things.
When did you actually leave the residence?
Somewhere. We're getting to the office at around, and I think I stopped and had lunch and had a Burger King or something, so somewhere around 11.
Did you say anything to her before you left? Did you check on her? Did you see if she needed anything?
Man, she needed 911 in October,
I
man.
remember rolling her over at some point.
Right, Jenny Lynn? Man.
You rolled her?
Rolled her over onto her side.
I guess what I'm asking is prior to you leaving the residence for good. Okay. Did you check on her and say, hey, did you need something? You need to get you a glass of water? Did you need to get you something?
No.
Did you check on her at that point?
Well, she was out of it. She had taken a sleep until that morning, so she was totally
She was in and out?
out of it, yeah. The day before, I put her out there at all.
Okay. I guess what concerns me a little bit is that at 6:30 in the morning, she's having a very difficult time breathing. Okay. Some point in the morning hours, you roll her. Okay. You leave for work, you don't really check on her. Okay. That was kind of concerning a little bit. Okay. I mean, somebody who's having a difficult time breathing, I mean, that's how we live. I mean, we breathe.
Right.
I think what bothers me a bit about this is that there was no care in calling a doctor. I mean, granted, maybe in the morning that you wanted to, but I'm saying, you're leaving the house. You're leaving her there. Okay, she took a sleeping pill. She's on some medication. She's not been feeling well. You know what I'm saying? I mean, to me, that just seems a little odd. I mean, she's your wife. Granted, I know about the problems that have been going on. But I mean, no, but I mean, she's the mother of your children, that kind of thing. I mean, I guess what I'm getting at is, why would you not check on her, especially, before you walk out the door?
I did at some point there.
Okay, because the time of death, I don't know if Paul has told you, it's in between, 11 and 12 o'clock, somewhere around that time frame. Okay, you're home, supposedly.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess what I'm saying is that you roll her on her
Well,
side.
I rolled her. That has to be before I left, given a little earlier in the morning. And I know she was breathing at that point.
Why would you roll her? I mean,
It sounded like she had stuff in her throat. I guess it was not that she was trying to cough it up.
okay, so she's having problems breathing. Do you think there's something in her throat?
Oh, I think it was raspy.
Okay.
I couldn't tell what it was. She had that breathing the night before too. Not as bad.
Wouldn't be so incriminating if, you didn't murder her. So, just saying. Tell you what, man, if you feel like your significant other is going to kill you,
Plattsburgh, during the bulk of this exchange between
maybe
the defendant and
make some changes.
Detective Heather Berg, you were not present in the room. Is that true?
That is correct.
But you've listened to this video several times.
Yes, I've listened to this video. We also had a monitor set up in my office. So when I left the room, I was monitoring the conversation in my office.
And you've compared the video to the transcript, and it's an accurate transcription?
It is, yes.
And once again, the defendant confirms that Julie Jensen did not get out of bed on the morning of December 3rd,
That is correct.
that she had a very hard time breathing,
Yes.
that he recognized it was life-threatening.
I don't recall him saying that on there, but I think that is something.
Directing your attention to the screen, question, were you concerned that this would be something? Answer, definitely. Question, life-threatening? Answer, I was very concerned about it. Question, I mean, as far as life-threatening, answer, yeah. So he confirmed that he considered this to be a life-threatening experience that she was having.
You are correct, yes.
And he confirms he did not contact the doctor that day.
Correct.
And he confirmed that he rolled around to her side.
Yes.
And he confirms that when asked the question, did you check on her to say, hey, are you okay? Do you need something? Do you need me to get you a glass of water? Do you need me to get something? The answer was no. And then the question, you didn't check on her at that point? Answer, well, she was out of it. She had taken a sleeping pill that morning, so she was totally. Question, she was in and out? Answer, yeah, out of it. Yeah, I mean, the day before, I couldn't rouse her at all.
Yes, that is correct.
How much more direct do you have?
That was the last. Well, how much more direct? I've got more direct, but that was the last of the interviews.
I think the jury is,
I think it'd be a good time to take a break.
yeah, they earned their break this afternoon, folks. Thank you.
All right. Well, jury gets a break. I feel like we've earned a break. I would hope y'all take a moment and go stretch your legs out a little bit. I'm trying to at this time give you guys a breakdown of the timeline of events here via the court proceedings and
All right, we're in recess. Thank
summary of some of the testimonies that have taken place in the trial. Because it keeps going and going and going. I mean, there's so much that happens here since '98 when Julie was found dead. And that's what the testimony is about. They're talking to Mark. In April of 2002, he was picked up. And Dave, I appreciate you can help me out with that recap. So, sorry, checking my getting messages here. So, actually here, I'm going to give you guys a quick a walkthrough, if you will, of the I'll come back to this in a minute. Where are we at over here? So this was the original walkthrough of the house when Julie Jensen was found dead. And just give me 1 second here and I'll pull that up for you. Might actually have it run right now. All right. A lot of information here, guys. So I apologize. Take 1 second. They need to warn me before they do these breaks, man. They never tell me when they're gonna do it. I mean, that's love, that's marriage, right? Something like that. Let me go ahead and so actually I'm going to show you a few other little videos here. So this was when the pathologist said that Jensen died from suffocation, the forensic pathologist in the trial, and not from poison. Now this is the original finding. So obviously that took a turn, and that was not what it ended up being. But so I need to do this. Here we go. All right. So bear with me for 1 second. I can pull that up for you. Yeah. Well, let's make it a tab then, shall we? If I can do that here. This will work. We'll do it like this. All right, cool. And here we go. All right.
Opening day of testimony was interrupted by tornadoes, but the case against a Kenosha County man accused of poisoning his wife with antifreeze did resume today.
Colleen Henry joins us from the Walworth County Courthouse. Colleen, a key witness took the stand today.
Yeah, Kat, this is that witness who made such a splash last summer when prosecutors first introduced him. He's the guy who came forward after 9 years to say he was a coworker of Mark Jensen.
Ed Klug.
Jensen told him he planned to kill his wife a full month before her death.
Mark told me how, that's
crazy.
If you wanted to get rid of your wife,
he sat on this testimony for 9 years.
That would tell you how to poison your wife, how to kill her, how it would not be detectable.
Edward Klug told jurors he and Mark Jensen were drinking after a training conference in St. Louis when Jensen revealed his plan to poison his wife, Julie. In 9 years, Klug never contacted police. Prosecutors learned about him from one of his co-workers. This afternoon, prosecutors tried to deflate that fact by raising the issue before the defense did.
Didn't that maybe alert you to the notion that perhaps you should contact somebody with a badge and a gun and a uniform?
Right. He's capable of killing his wife. What would he do to me?
Prosecutors believe Mark Jensen killed his wife to be with his mistress.
Fair
but
play.
Jensen's attorney argues that despondent Julie killed herself after she learned Mark was having an affair with a co-worker, that she left behind a letter pointing the finger at her husband in revenge. This morning,
this
the
is a
prosecution
retrial.
changed its theory on how Julie Jensen died. The medical examiner who conducted the original autopsy now says she was suffocated. That after a jailhouse snitch told police Mark Jensen said he shoved Julie's face in a pillow because she wasn't dying fast enough from the poison.
What is the cause of death of Julie Jensen?
Asphyxia by smothering or suffocation. That's her cause of death. A contributing factor could be ethylene glycol.
Could be ethylene glycol.
Expected to take the stand later this week. Of course, the defense has already started arguing he's making the story up in order to get himself a sentence reduction in his own criminal case, Toya.
All right, and this is expected to run several weeks. Is that correct?
So that's wild. So that's Ed Klug, right? So this is the guy that he just testified, and he didn't come forward for 9 years. Just sat on that evidence that long. Which just is wild to me. But I could give you guys more of his testimony here. Actually, why don't we give you that? Because that was like that was a turnkey point in the case, is when Ed Klug, so the jailhouse snitch mentioned something about Ed Klug being talked to. So they're like, oh, we'll talk to Ed. And then Ed, said, actually, yeah. So, and yeah, so here, I'll pull that up for you. Let me, I have that one for you guys here as well. And this is in January 9th of 08. So, and this is just a couple minutes here. Hopefully, I'll keep track of the court, make sure we don't jump back in while we're waiting here. And let's just go ahead and I'm just going to give us some background, some backstory here. And hopefully they give us more of Ed Klug's testimony. I mean, I could give the straight testimony, but this is kind of like a recap of what happened with that. So
what this man is accused of doing.
Hi, Reggie. Good afternoon to everybody. Well, the prosecution is saying in this case that the defendant, Mark Jensen, a stockbroker, actually killed his wife by poisoning her to death, actually feeding her
So let's
antifreeze,
skip
which has
past some of this
ethylene
here.
glycol, which then metabolized in her system and caused her death. The defense is saying, that's not what happened at all.
Right.
Julie Jensen was a very depressed woman. She was very...
Their star witnesses in this trial is a guy named Ed Klug. He's
Yeah,
someone
let's jump
who
in.
used to work with the accused. And this is what is so baffling to me. Ed is telling the jury that he sat on this information, that he knew that his coworker was talking about possibly killing his wife, and then didn't report it to anybody.
That's right, Reggie. What he is testifying to, Ed Klug, and he's been on the stand for a long time, just got off the stand. He says that in November of 1998, he was at a business convention with Mark Jensen, and they both were having problems in their marriage, so they were drinking through the evening, and even up until when the bar closed that night. Then they went into the lobby for some coffee drinks, but as the alcohol was flowing and as they kept talking about their wives, he actually said they had a wife-bashing session, Mark Jensen suddenly said, you know, I'm trying to kill my wife, and I'm looking on research on the internet, and I'm finding ways of undetectable poisons where you can actually kill someone, but it's never detected. And I'm going to be trying to do that to my wife because I got to get out of this marriage. Defense is saying,
Might have been a little narration on that one.
You kept this for 9 years. You never came forward to law enforcement, and you suddenly do summer of 07, just a few months ago. You are not to be believed, Mr. Klug.
It is extremely bizarre, and I'm told that that's not the only thing the defense has. They're making some headway in some other areas as well.
So this is part of the original
Well, the defense
trial
is
in
also, they are
09,
cross-examining
when it comes out in 09,
every
right?
witness, and there have not been too many thus far. But one area, the cause of death has always
Well, no, this came
been
out in
antifreeze
January 9th,
poisoning
08.
the entire way. Well, with the first witness, the medical
by February, he
examiner,
was found
suddenly
guilty.
the prosecution on redirect says, you know, let's look at some things here. We've got a photo of her face in a pillow. We've got another photo of when her body was found that her nose and face was totally out of alignment, which is so unusual. And now we suddenly have testimony from a jailhouse snitch, we can call him, that said that Mark Jensen in summer of 07 said, you know what? At the very end, I was feeding her this ethylene glycol, this antifreeze, but she wasn't dying. So at the very end, I had to put her face in a pillow and smother her to death. So prosecutor says to this ME, first witness on the stand, taking all of that in consideration, do you think her cause of death could have been suffocation? Medical examiner said yes, within a reasonable degree of medical certainty. I believe at this moment, because of all of the work that you prosecutors have done, I think she actually died of suffocation.
You know, you're pointing out to us so much evidence. You've got Klug on the stand saying.
To be clear, though, her dying of suffocation doesn't necessarily pander to homicide, right? Suffocation could have been from suffocation, asphyxiation. I'm not sure if they're making a distinction between that, but they were saying asphyxiation, like you could suffocate somebody or you could suffocate yourself, right? I'm pretty sure that there's that it goes well. I don't think suffocating is the act of being asphyxiated by somebody or something else. And even if that's the case, she might have been choking on, she might have passed out into the pillow. There's that aspect of it. But then, as you saw in the video, the forensic pathologist said, and basically antifreeze could have played a part too. I mean, that's kind of a nonchalant nod in the direction of like there might have been a contributing factor to her suffocating, like I don't know, poison in her system. Just saying,
That he had conversations about the ways in which this wife, Julie Jensen, may have died. You have a jailhouse snitch who is talking against him. I mean, it sounds to me like the defense is going to have a hard time with this.
This is called, Reggie, a circumstantial case, which means that nobody witnessed this. Nobody can come into court and specifically say, yes, I saw it, this is what happened. But it's all these puzzle pieces that come together. And there's great cross-examination because you can find holes in all of this, but will the jury in the end believe the puzzle pieces fit together well enough so that beyond a reasonable doubt, yes, they believe Mark Jensen, stockbroker, poisoned his wife to death? We'll have to wait and see.
Unless you get
Now,
so
this
drunk.
Klug character.
So John B says it would be pretty hard to suffocate myself. Yeah, unless you accidentally, roll over onto your face. Let's say you're sleeping on a beanbag chair. I'm just playing devil's advocate. Let's say you get really, really drunk, you pass out face down on a beanbag chair. Even then, you think self-preservation would say, oh my God, this thing is stuck to my face. I can't breathe. Well, placing a dying individual on their stomach can cause suffocation without strangulation. Antifreeze should not be in the system. Yeah, you guys, at no point in time should antifreeze have been in her system. I think that's like the big point here that we need to look at, is that like whether she was smothered, suffocated, asphyxiated, whatever it is, why the hell did she have antifreeze in her system? Like, that's just, and how did it get there? And then we have to look at all of the other evidence. I feel like my wife is poisoning me. Ed Klug here says what he's saying. Oh, yeah, he was talking about killing his wife. Let me tell you how he would do it.
The stockbroker that you're talking about, he didn't tell police right away what was happening, but he did talk to other people?
Yes, he is saying that he spoke with his wife immediately, contemporaneously, when this conversation was happening in 98, that he spoke with his partner, that he spoke with several of his secretaries. Reggie, they're all going to take the stand. And if they corroborate what Klug is saying, yes, he did tell me this back in 98, that's going to give this witness a lot of credibility. If they don't corroborate it, then it's going to hurt the prosecution.
Gene, I am baffled. Okay, he told his wife, he told his partner, he told all these people.
But not the police.
Why didn't they go and say, look, there's a problem here?
What he has said on the stand is Mark Jensen was my direct boss. He approved all of my stock trades, all of my buys. I was brand new at this company. I was scared to come forward because if he actually killed his wife, what could he do to me if I went forward? Secondly, Mr. Klug was having marital problems. There was a secretary he liked. He had moved out of his home. He'd actually filed for divorce. There was a woman allegedly he was flirting with that very night. Personally speaking, he may not have want to have gone to police to expose all of those things because he and his wife had just reconciled to try it again.
All right.
Now, to be clear about that point, and Candace, what you're saying is very true. Yeah, every time you hear a, somebody say like, I didn't say I was gonna kill my wife. I'm saying somebody should kill her, but it doesn't mean you should. But then within a period of time, that person is found dead. Then you kind of have the responsibility of obligation to come forward and say something about it. Now, what she's saying is very true. Ed Klug was having an affair on his wife. Mark Jensen's wife had an affair on him. He was having an affair on his wife. All this infidelity was taking place, and they were talking about, they were comparing secretaries, real like locker room, your typical.
We're back on the record. Mark
Bullshit talk.
Jensen, 2002.
But then she's dead.
314. The appearances of.
Either way, we're back in trial here, so I want to get us back up and going here. Right. And again, I'm putting all this together for you guys, so you'll have like a timeline with the clips to these videos.
Ratsburg, I know you haven't
and I'll put in a PDF that you'll be able to go into and
committed this entire interview to
read
memory.
through it along with the letter she wrote.
And counsel's attention to
So
page 81.
you'll have access to that.
Line
Hopefully,
24. Recall posing
by the end of the
following
day today.
question.
I'll shut up.
Question. Okay, so that means there was some type of contact in the bedroom while you were there. There's no other way. There's no other way to explain it, and the only person that was there was you. I'm willing to work through this with you, but we need to find out what happened here. Answer, Paul, I did not do anything to hurt her. I did not. There was a question between myself and the kids that morning, whether or not to call an ambulance. Question, Answer, take her to the hospital. And the kids wanted to stay home. Her breathing was funny. She could hardly get out of bed. I mean, it was a god-awful situation. The bruising probably came from her getting up. I didn't hit her. She got up and she fell. She hit her head. I remember her telling me that. She got up to go to the John. I don't know what happened, but anybody who was sitting there having a hard time breathing and telling you that they're okay, she was in no condition. If you want to try to do something sexual, to do it. Do you recall posing those questions and receiving those answers?
Yes.
I cannot argue with these facts. And would you guys take a look at Dark Wolf here? That beard is
Now,
regal
at the
and
time
powerful.
that you were conducting this interview with Mark Jensen on April 21st, 1999. At that point, you had not received any information back from any toxicologists indicating the presence of ethylene glycol in Julie, had you?
That is correct, yes.
Now, on the day of April 21st, 1999, when you interviewed Mark Jensen, when Mark Jensen came to the police station, he had his son David with him. Is that true?
That is true.
And did you talk briefly with David as well?
I did.
And David was just a little boy at that time.
He was.
Jim says, I get all my advice from a 3 and an 8-year-old. I mean, who wouldn't, right? If you want to hear it straight, there's where you go.
I'm going to show you another exhibit.
Yes.
And so what is State's Exhibit 42?
State's Exhibit 42 is the day planner that we recovered from the Jensen home on December 3rd, 1998. You saw it in the video and so forth. It was inside that briefcase underneath his desk. And then on top of that, in the photos, you'll see that it's leather bound, and this was inside of there. And I recovered this from the Jensen home December 3rd, 1998. That would be State's Exhibit 42.
The jury has heard testimony about something called the blueprint that occurred November 5th, 6th, and 7th. Is there any notation in that book about November 5th, 6th, and 7th?
I'm here at it, and I don't see blueprint on there for November 5th. You could maybe direct me, please.
So, directing your attention, these are not, the page is not numbered, but it's got 2 pages where the entire month of November is laid out there, correct?
Correct.
And for the 5th, 6th, and 7th, is there any notation in there?
Yes, November 1998, there's a star, and it says blueprint, and then it has MGR 1:30, and then 9:30. On Friday, November 6th, there's another star that says blueprint, and then on November 7th, which is a Saturday, it says blueprint.
And this is in Mark Jensen's day planner.
Correct.
I'm going to ask you some questions about that. Now, after the section you had just described where November 5th, 6th, and 7th indicate blueprint, then in the next few pages, there's a series of pages where each page is a different day of the month for October. Is that correct? I'm sorry, for November.
Yes.
And there's a notation in front of you. Which date is set forth in front of you there on the book that I've opened there too?
Monday, November 9th, 1998.
And is there any notation about something happening with the carpeting?
Yes.
Read the jury what it says.
Puked on carpet. The whole thing, sir?
Yes.
Yes. Right return, puked on carpet. Model of chairs are right over weekend, but got into it, whether to clean to, it's a little scrambled, the writing. Let me start over. But into it, whether to it cleaned. And I can't make out the other words. Then but below that, there's some Bloomberg, and then something about another word I can't make out, chairs.
I don't care. I was just wondering
Very
about
good.
notations that pertain to puking on the carpet. That's set forth November 9th.
Yes, sir.
And what day of the week is November 9th?
That is a Monday.
Sometime before December 3rd, 1998, you'd seen a series of photographs that Julie had taken that included pages from Mark Jensen's day planner. Is that true?
Yes.
And one of those photographs portrayed a Post-it note with a variety of things listed on it. Is that true?
Yes.
Now, did you look for that Post-it note in Mr. Jensen's day planner on or about December, sometime after you seized it on December 3rd?
Yes.
And did you find that Post-it note?
The Post-it note? No.
Now, you also made reference to finding Julie's, the log that she'd maintained of harassment.
Yes.
I'm not sure why they muted it out, but oh, there we go. They're coming back. So quiet. Okay. Well, while we're going through this, yeah, you guys, if you would like and follow the page, please. If you're new to the page, this is CJTV. I'm CJ, your host, and if you haven't set up notifications, please do. And share the page. Share it out to your friends, family, whoever it might be. It would be a great help to me if you're not able to contribute stars, super chats, super stickers, depending on what platform you're on. The just sharing it out does make a difference. Just broadcasting it out and gathering as many people into our community as possible. That's what we're trying to do here. We have a lot more than just court cases we'll be covering too. So we're moving into the new year, a lot of stuff going on. So you want to stay tuned for as much as possible.
And ask you to compare this to the log that's already been received evidence, that book right there. I don't remember what the exhibit number is in that book. So can you tell us the exhibit number? It's on the plastic bag, I believe.
The book is S34.
So S34 is the original hard copy of the log that Julie kept of the harassment that she experienced?
Yes.
Now take a look at S44, and this is a photocopy of that, and starting with the partial review of past. So compare those pages to these pages in Exhibit S44.
This is a true and accurate copy of this state's item number 34.
I move Exhibit S43 and S44, and now it's S43 for electronic version, and that's what we'll be accessing using
So it's 34 and 44?
43 and 44.
43 and 44 then, okay.
You have a copy of that?
So directing your attention to the screen, can you read that? I can make it a little bit bigger, I think. So this is the partial review of past that was contained in Julie Jensen's day planner, the one that you found, I'm sorry, the harassment log that she kept.
Yes.
And this was found in, where was this found?
This was located in the Jensen bedroom in her desk area there, or the dresser.
So she describes this as starting on January 19th, 1992.
Yes.
And then this first page proceeds down to 4/20/92.
Yes.
Start the next page. And she's describing predominantly hang-up calls at this point, correct?
Yes.
A wide variety of hang-up calls all the way through December 3rd, 1992. And this, she's describing this as a recap continued.
Yes.
More hang-up calls at home, December 7th, 92 through.
Yes.
28/93, correct?
Correct.
And she describes on 11/4/93 a report made to Ron Cosman, and she gives the case number.
Yes, that is correct.
She describes how mailbox parts are being ordered because they had problems with a variety of other issues like the mailbox and flat tires on Mark's truck.
Correct.
So on August 25th, 95, she made a complaint to Ron Cosman, and who suggested a trace again through Ameritech.
Correct.
And from September 6th to September 27th, 95, there was a trap and trace, and there were no calls to report.
Correct.
Then October 25th, the hang-up calls start again.
Yes.
And on November 95 through January 96, she's indicating very active calling Mark's office and leaving photos, correct?
Correct.
So on November 15th through February 1st, 95, again, there's a trace on, correct?
Did you?
It says from November 15th to 12/1/95, trace on.
Yes.
Life without parole was his first sentence. And then they had it overturned. So
And
then he
here
was
it
out.
indicates that on November 20th and November 22nd, there were some calls.
Yes.
But they did not seem to be related to this case when those were investigated.
But they're assuming these call hangups.
I recall
were from
investigating a hang-up call
Perry Tarica
with the Jensens, and I can't recall what year it was.
The Julie Jensen cheated on.
But they had a hang-up call that they reported to Ameritech, and we obtained a address, and it was in the area of Kenosha. It was behind the old Kmart on 52nd Street, and I checked out the address, and I determined that it was just simply a wrong number. However, that wasn't and that was only the one time. So there was one time that I investigated personally a hang-up call and found out that it was just an incidental hang-up call.
So just February 3rd, 96, there was report number 96-01246 made to Ron Cosman.
Yes.
And a bag of evidence was turned over.
Correct.
They've secured the bag.
And then more of these instances, and now there's pictures left on Mark's truck.
Correct.
On March 21st, and then March 28th, another hang-up call.
Yes, all in 96.
On April 2nd, she's indicating that she called A.G. Edwards this morning in Chicago to inquire about the whereabouts, and she's talking about the whereabouts of whom? She's talking about the whereabouts of Perry Tarica, is that true? Of Perry Tarica, is that true?
Yes, I see it now. Thank you. Yes.
That's the guy.
And then on April 2nd, 96, she spoke to Kenosha Police Detective Paula Mickelson, and she makes notes of what Detective Mickelson told her to do. First, Detective Mickelson told her to talk to a detective at Pleasant Prairie Police, not a uniformed patrolman. So, and the name Mark Hunter and Paul Ratsberg is listed there, correct?
Correct.
2, keep a journal of everything that happens, correct?
Correct.
And then for further support, she could talk to Lynn Copen, who at that time was the victim witness coordinator for the Kenosha County DA's office, correct?
Correct.
She talked to somebody at Rhodey's Cameras.
Yes, she did.
And she had Mark call a guy named Dave Dewar, who apparently knows Perry Tarica, and Dewar gave the current location of Perry Tarica in Tryon, North Carolina, correct?
Correct.
April 5th, she records that you'd gone to visit her and suggested placing video camera in the tripod out David's bedroom windows, correct?
Correct.
April 5th at 7:05, there was a hang-up call.
Correct.
And she has more records of hang-up calls. On April 17th, she's talking about pictures left of Mark's truck at the office, correct?
Correct.
And then April 18th, she indicates that you'd called North Carolina and you spoke to Perry Tarica.
That is correct.
And at that point, was it at that point that you rule out Perry Tarica as being the source of these photographs and hang-up calls?
Yes, it was.
And how was it that you were able to rule him out?
Well, I talked to Perry Tarica when I contacted him, and he told me he was in North Carolina. I was a little hesitant to believe him. He cooperated to me. He was a little irritated that this kept going on, but and I verified his alibi, and I spoke with his employer out there to assure that he was, in fact, where he said he was in North Carolina and not anywhere near the village of Pleasant Prairie.
So then you would have recommended Dave Ellis?
I did.
And who is Dave Ellis?
Dave Ellis is he was a former Kenosha police officer, and he was a private detective. I knew him, and the Jensens considered using his services.
The So she indicates that on April 25th, she met with Dave Ellis.
Yes, and before that, I recall that Dave Ellis came out to the police department and I briefed him on the case and I showed him some of the photos and all that, so he had a good idea of what he was looking at. That was further at Julie Jensen's request, and then the Jensens had further business to do with Mr. Ellis.
So, and she indicates on May 1st, she indicated Dave Ellis called.
Yes. Yes.
And again, she makes reference to hang-up calls and several calls from Mark at the office, and hang-up calls at home.
Correct.
She checked license plates on vehicles.
Yes.
She had a conversation with you on May 10th, 1996. Caller ID. There's a tap on the phone. Correct?
Correct.
May 10th, 96, she called Ameritech and ordered caller ID and automatic callback features for 30 days and free for 30 days.
Correct.
And you were conducting investigations in these matters. For example, on June 3rd, 96, you checked the number of, you were indicating that Mark had received some harassing phone call and you determined that person was not connected to Mark in any way.
I appreciate you
Correct.
guys in the chat staying with each other. Yeah. So Robert, I think Robert, I think I told you he was life without parole. So she was being stalked. Yeah, that was the idea.
And then more out of area calls, more hang up calls through June, July of 96.
Yes.
She's keeping notes of everything that's happening, correct?
Yes, he's doing a very good job.
And then we're going through a number of pages here, more records of more hang-up calls, more pics left on Mark's truck at the office, pics left on Mark's truck in the office, tape messages on it to his office, phone calls to Mark's office, hang-ups at home.
Yes.
And then we get to keep paging through this. We get to 1998. So on page 46, January 19th, 1998, she underlines the word new tactics, live on internet, calls to Mark's office, asking if he's watching it and when to tune in, correct?
That is correct.
And these are predominantly calls to Mark's office, she's saying, right?
Yes.
And then on April 13th, 1998, she indicates email, correct?
That is correct.
And then on April 22nd, email, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
April 29th at 6:33 p.m., another email. And then on April 30th, another email, correct?
Correct.
May 5th email, May 6th email, correct?
Yes.
So now she's keeping track of the emails that they're getting.
That is correct. All occurring in June of 1998.
So she makes a call, she complains about, or calls to Mark's office on June 26th, and then July 7th, and July 9th, and then August 17th, 1998, an out-of-area hang-up call at home at 10:37 a.m., correct?
That is correct.
And there's no more entries after August 17th, 1998.
Correct.
About the time that Mark Jensen struck
believe
up
so,
a
Dave,
relationship
yeah.
with Kelly Labonte.
That is correct.
In 2000 and
Now, you also recovered
13.
Julie's day planner, correct?
Mark
I
got
did.
out of prison.
And Julie's day planner, it's up there. Hard copy of the day planner, and that's marked. What exhibit number is
I do. Julie's day planner is S33.
And just to be clear, this is also on S. What was it? What was the exhibit number on this? Where's the envelope? So, for the record, this is also on exhibit S43, where I had it concealed on my desk underneath other papers. Now, so directing your attention to the screen, comparing what's set forth here for December 29th, 1997, Paul and Jill over, that's what's contained in the hard copy that you have there, correct?
Did you say 97, sir?
I'm talking about, it's the first, it's the second page in on this. It's just Monday, December 29th, 1997. Paul and Jill over. Exclamation point. Do you see it?
Yeah, I do. Yes.
Okay. That's why you need to answer aloud. Do you see it there? And that is there, correct?
It is correct,
And
sir.
you know who Paul and Jill are?
I do.
Who are Paul and Jill?
Paul and Jill are Julie's. Paul is Julie's brother, and Paul and Jill were married.
So Jill is Paul's wife, and she has Paul and Jill over exclamation point.
She does, yes.
And so this is a true and accurate copy of what's contained in the document that you're holding in your hand there, correct?
That is correct.
And as we page through this, I'm not going to go through the entire thing. But the notations that Julie has in her day planner, it's all about household things and the kids, right? Back to school. I'm talking about January 5th, 1998. Back to school, exclamation point, pay bills. Joey, question mark, pay bills on January 6th.
Yes,
These all seem to be things that relate to the operation of the home.
it does.
Judge, I object to the just, it's really just all leading at this point.
Was there a ruling on the judge? I didn't hear.
Judge, I had objected based on leading that Mr. Jamboys was basically doing all the testifying at this point.
Why don't you ask the witness the questions? Your objection is sustained.
Okay, directing your attention to January 12th through January 15th. What do these entries look like to you? Do they pertain to business or the operation of the home?
Mainly operation of the home. There's some errands I see that Julie has on here, like, for example, May 12th, 1998, which is a Monday. Nick, school, KYF, Kim's book club there on Tuesday, January 13th. And it goes on, apparently there's some dry cleaning she needs to pick up and things like that. So it's a combination of social and household activities.
And it says January 17, 1998, it says Dave and Sharon Over. Do you know who Dave and Sharon are? Would that be Dave and Sharon Naring?
Yes, I'm a little slower at finding it than you are, my friend.
Oh.
But yes, that's David Nearing and Sharon Nearing. They were good friends with the Jensens, and they would socialize with each other and come back and forth.
So I'm going to now get up to Back, we're in September of 98, but this time the children are in school, correct?
Yes.
So much information to gather here, guys. Man, I'm telling you. Oh, man.
Now, what's the, directing your attention to Wednesday, September 23rd? Do you see any notations? For example, 9, 10, 11 are circled, and it says Mrs. DeFazio. Do you know what that's about?
Yes, as a regular routine, as I went through this on Wednesdays while school was in session, Julie volunteered at Southport School with her child, and the teacher's name was Mrs. DeFazio at Southport School. And again, it was a regular routine on Wednesdays. You know, you'll see that throughout this calendar when school's in session.
And so again, on Wednesday, November 30th, September 30th, the 9, 10, 11 are circled there. Is that correct?
Did you say September 30th?
I said September 30th, yes.
That is correct.
And October 7th, Wednesday, again, there's reference to it being circled in Mrs. DeFazio, correct?
Yes, similar to the other entries from, well, this one has it 8 to noon, but it's Mrs. DeFazio on a Wednesday.
And so was through November. And I'm sorry, so was through October, and then we get into November and December 2nd, it's crossed off, isn't it? For what's going on at 9 o'clock on December 2nd is crossed off. Correct?
Yes.
December 2nd, can you see that? As
Yeah,
crossed off?
I noticed a Wednesday in November either, but now that I think about it, maybe it was the kids were off. But what was your date, sir?
December 2nd.
Yes, it's not listed on December 2nd.
She does have things listed in later in December, though, right?
She does. Another one that is familiar to me is Thursday, November 12th.
Well, we're in December, so let's go to December 8th.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So go to December 8th.
Yes.
So, and are you familiar with what I lost it. Let me get back to December 8th here. So December 8th, there's this heart. Do you know what that's about?
Yes, the Jensens had a dog, and you'll see it throughout this calendar. When you buy it's heart something, it's some type of worm or medication for dogs, and you put that on your calendar, and then you would give it to your dog when it was due. The heart would tell you that.
It's administered once a month.
Okay.
Is that correct?
I believe so.
So, but here on December 11th, she's got Kids Castle, Joey's birthday party, the Stifle Christmas party.
Yes.
Now, at some point after after your interview with Mark Jensen, you did receive information regarding ethylene glycol poisoning from the St. Louis Forensic Toxicology Lab,
Yes,
and you'd also conferred at that point with Dr. Lavin,
yes,
and there was additional investigation that was conducted in this matter.
yes,
And then sometime in March of 2002, you obtained an arrest warrant for Mark Jensen, and you arrested him, took him into custody at that point.
yes,
Now, and you interviewed him at that point.
I did.
And then later, did you go talk to anybody at Stifel Nicholas?
Yes,
And ultimately, as a consequence of those conversations, did you end up getting a search warrant for the personal documents or for the documents that Mark Jensen had left at Stifel Nicholas and for his computer at Stifel Nicholas?
yes,
And did you seize that computer?
Freaking
Yes.
cat, man.
And then subsequently, you had obtained an investigative subpoena for another computer that had been sent to the Stifel Nicholas office in St. Louis. Is that true?
yes,
And you obtained that computer as well?
I did.
And I'm going to direct your attention to exhibits 30 and 31, which must be up here.
Yes.
I really hope all this work I'm putting in is worth it for you guys. Just gathering all these videos and data research and then going to different places, and
So directing your attention first.
hopefully it pays off to help better understand what's going on in this case. So
I'm sorry, Mr. Jamboyce, I didn't hear you on my.
Directing your attention to exhibit S30.
Yes,
There's a notation that this was picked up April 9th, 2002 at St. Louis. Is that true?
yes,
And who picked it up?
I did.
So you drove to St. Louis and you picked up this computer?
Yes, on this particular computer, I discovered during my investigation that shortly after Julie's death, Mark switched out computers, and this would have been the computer that was in his office that he used previously in December.
So you obtained this computer on April 9th, 2002, and it says you dropped it off April 10th, 2002. Is that correct?
That is correct, analyst Brad Haller.
And that's reflected at the bottom of the page, April 10th, 2002, with Brad Haller's signature.
Correct.
And Brad Haller was, again, who was he?
He's an analyst with the Department of Justice, State of Wisconsin Department of Justice.
Now directing your attention to State's Exhibit S31.
Yes,
That reflects that this is the Jensen work computer from 2002 in Racine.
correct.
And who picked up this computer?
I did.
It's item
F.
F. Item F, the following items submitted: computer sealed Dell Dimension XPS R400 bearing the serial number F7WOZ. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you picked up that item from Stifel in Racine?
Yes,
And then you picked up another computer. Actually, the item F is Mark Jensen's personal computer that was picked up at his office, correct?
that is correct.
And then item G is the work computer that was picked up at his office. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And then item H is a cardboard box containing the computer of Kelly. Is that true?
That is accurate. Yes,
And you obtained these or dropped these off with Brad Haller on May 15th, 2002. Is that correct?
yes. I took them to the Department of Justice, the forensic unit, and for to have analyzed, and that was to Mr. Haller on May 15th.
Now, at some point after Mark Jensen had been arrested, did you speak to anybody at Stifel Nicholas's office?
Yes,
Did you speak to Dave Nearing?
I did.
So you spoke to him sometime shortly after Mark Jensen was arrested?
Yes,
And then did you speak to him again sometime in 2004?
I did. Yes,
Now, during any one of those conversations, do you recall whether or not Dave Nearing ever made reference to Mark Jensen having a stenographer's notebook with a series of penis diagrams in it?
Yes, I don't recall the notebook per se, but we didn't have that conversation in 2002.
Here goes the penis talk
That
again.
was a conversation I had with him in 2004, and what I was doing was serving a search warrant there to retain some of the items, and there were some drawings of female genitalia and man penises, and then that conversation took place in 2004.
Like man dick? That comes off the video. I'll show you guys in a minute. He was so uncomfortable saying that female genitalia and man penises.
Now, have you had an opportunity to take a look at, I just provided you a State's Exhibit S22. Can you take a look at that, please?
I am.
So, and do you recall seeing those, where those notes were recovered?
These notes here were recovered in 2004, reference to a search warrant from the Stiefel office in Racine, Wisconsin.
And you're the one that executed the search warrant?
Yes.
And you're the one that recovered those notes?
Yes.
And you read those notes at the time?
Yes.
And those are the notes that you recovered from Mark Jensen's personal belongings?
Yes.
At the Stiefel Nicholas office?
In Racine, Wisconsin, yes.
And you believe at that time you may have spoken with Dave Nearing?
Yes. In fact, as I look through here, I see some drawings of the items I mentioned earlier, and then that's when that conversation came up, and he acknowledged that he knew Mark was doing that. However, I don't recall the specific on the notebook, but I recall that conversation then.
Let's not refer to them as the items you referred to earlier. Let's be more direct. What are these what are these drawings of?
These drawings are of male penises, and get it back in front of me here. And
do we need to say male? Well, I guess this day and age we have to say male penises,
male
right?
and female vaginas and penises.
Okay. I guess he's being very appropriate for this
So
current
you
day and
think
age.
at the
Male
time
and
that you
female
picked that up,
vaginas.
you may have had some discussion with Dave Nearing?
Male penises.
Yes.
And is it that time that Dave Nearing may have made reference to this notebook that he'd seen earlier from Mark Jensen with diagrams of penises on it?
Yes.
And you didn't produce a report concerning that conversation with Dave Nearing?
No.
You just obtained this, you just executed the search warrant at that time?
Yes.
Thank you, Detective or Lieutenant Detective Ratsberg. I have no further questions of you.
Who's going to do the cross? Go ahead.
Oh, that's right. You know what? I'm sorry, Your Honor. I forgot to, there's one other issue I forgot to talk to Mr. Ratsberg about. Detective Lieutenant Ratsberg, at some point in 2008, 2009, and 2010, were you asked to recover phone recordings that were placed by Mark Jensen to his family?
Yes.
And who's the person that asked you to obtain those recordings?
You did.
And in the course of those recordings, there was some reference made to a book or manuscript. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And did you obtain that book and manuscript?
Yes.
And you then provided that to me. Is that correct?
That is correct. I believe that occurred in February of 2010.
I've shown you the paginated manuscript of the book that you obtained from Mark Jensen. Is that true?
Yes.
And
I don't like the whispering. I need to hear everything.
Now, I'd asked you to review that paginated manuscript. Is that correct?
Yes.
And in the course of your interview with Mark Jensen, he had told you about going to see Dr. Borman, correct?
Yes.
On December 2nd?
Yes. December 2nd, 1998.
And in his manuscript, he'd also described that going to Dr. Borman. Is that true?
That is true.
Directing your attention to the screen. At the top 12298 home, correct?
Yes.
And Mark Jensen here describes in his book this visit to Dr. Borman, does he not?
He does.
And he wrote, I walked in the door and approaching the receptionist counter explained, quote, Julie was here yesterday to see Dr. Borman. He gave her some samples last night. She woke me up acting drunk and blaming it on this, I said, showing her the printout. I know I don't have an appointment, but this is on top of everything else that has been happening that led her to see Dr. Borman. I need some help and would really appreciate being able to see him. And then he writes, wearing an expensive suit and a Rolex gives a presentation of authority and genuine legitimacy. And when accompanying a reasonable and polite request frequently achieves the desired results. I know Borman to be a responsible, conscientious professional, and in this situation, refusal of request for help would be irresponsible. That was his rendition of this visit to Dr. Borman that's set forth in his book, correct?
Excuse me, what pages are you on?
Which page was that opening on? So, let me a second pull this off. Page 410.
Judge, I do have an objection we should be heard outside the presence of the jury on.
Do you want to be heard on something?
Yes.
All right, folks, go take a short break. We're almost here today, so we're getting close.
And I am super okay with that happening because it's about that time, man. Between running around this morning and then sitting in the chair all afternoon, it's like, man, I'm sure you guys are feeling it too. Hopefully you're in a much more comfortable chair than I'm in right now. I'm not gonna wait until the beginning of this next week for an office chair to get here. I finally broke down and ordered one online because I just my ass and back are killing me in this chair here. So the jury's going to step out, and then we're going to hear what the
wait a minute here.
attorney has to say here. Please share the stream, though, guys, if you would help out. If you want to support what I do here, I'd love to get up to like 100
we're talking
shares
about the
per
manuscript
video per stream.
And my
So,
objection is
share it out to a couple groups
in
if you would,
looking at
please.
The notes
I mean
of
it.
what the state filed for
Be cool,
notice of
man.
intent to use defendant's statement at trial.
Be cool.
And it lists out specific pages, and the first one shown is not
One of them
He wrote a book. Is that what I'm gathering?
could
from
be a
this?
problem.
right.
Your Honor, I will indicate that it is true. It was not on that and I regret the error. I should have told him about that in advance. But I will say this, the notice of intent to use defendant's statement at trial was filed with this court on December 9th, 2022. And we indicated that we intend to use portions of the book, and this includes, but is not limited to, the following provisions or portions of the following provisions of the defendant's book or manuscript. Then goes on to read, these provisions of the book or manuscript are by no means the only portions of the book that are available as a statement by a party opponent. However, Judge Kirkman had previously indicated the state should attempt to indicate the portions of the book the state would most likely use at some point in the trial. It was my intent, Your Honor, to provide this in advance, and it was just an oversight on my part. The fact is, I don't know if we're going to use hardly any of this book beyond this one particular point. It came to my mind as I was looking, watching the portions of the interview transcript that were being testified to, and I knew that there was a reference to going to Dr. Borman's office in the book, and rather than doing it on the interview, I decided to do it through the book instead. So I do regret the oversight, but it was an oversight on my part. I wasn't trying to sandbag defense counsel.
So we're not going to show this anymore to the jury, what we just shown. For the pages at 410?
It was page 410, Your Honor. I wasn't going to go back into it again. Now in
401?
It's 410. It's 410.
I was right.
You were right. I mean,
It's nice to have the defense agree.
401, 410.
That's all right.
So, Your Honor, there is a massive amount of information. We have turned all of this over to defense counsel. They received the entire book. But just as it would be unwieldy to try to admit a 489-page book into evidence, 459 pages, however long it was. So in the interest of making it easier, I was going to try to isolate the portions we were going to use.
All right, what we had agreed upon, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so can we bring back the jury? Yes? Okay,
I believe so. It's my understanding that the objection is sustained.
correct.
Well, does that mean, well, he's already testified to that.
I know, but it's sustained.
But is that being
You could get it in another way if you want. I just think if we had an agreement, we should.
I'm not following what the court's ruling is in terms of being.
It wasn't what you had put in the order or whatever, whoever drafted the order. We were only going to get into specific areas of the manuscript, and this was not one of them.
That's not what the agreement says. That's not what the
That's what
submission.
my understanding of the agreement is.
Tell the judge.
Submission specifically says, these provisions of the book or manuscript are by no means the only portions of the book that are available as a statement by a party opponent. However, Judge Kirkman had previously indicated the state should attempt to indicate the portions of the book the state would most likely use at some point in the trial. The state had previously advised the court and counsel which portions of the recorded interview with Detective Ratsberg would or may be presented in the course of the trial. Further, a number of the defense recorded phone calls were admitted at the last trial, and the defense should anticipate that all of those may be presented at this trial as well. So the state did not indicate we were only going to be using these. We indicated these as the ones we were most likely going to use. I have provided the defense with everything that we had, including this entire book. And theoretically, as long as it's relevant, I could present any portion of the book. And Judge Kirkman had previously ruled, you should assume that any relevant portion of the book is going to come in. And they should assume that. Now, I had not intended to not tell them about page 410. This was just something that had just come up. If I had told them about this just before I put the witness on the stand, perhaps there wouldn't have been an objection. Now they know about it. But 410 is still a statement by a party opponent. It is still admissible if it's relevant. And we just demonstrated the relevance of it. And they can't argue that they were sandbagged about it because they got the entire book, not just page 410, not just these pages set forth here. They got the entire book. So they've had prior notice. This has been an issue in this case since middle of May 2016. So there's no part of this book that should be any surprise at all to defense counsel.
Well, that's two different areas. I know it's getting late in the day, but I think there was an agreement that we were only going to use portions of the manuscript.
That is
Now,
correct.
We're not doing that.
Well, Judge, we are still only using portions of the manuscript. In fact, we're using much less of the manuscript than the state had expected to use. Because if you look at this submission that was submitted December 9th, there's multiple pages listed here that we did not go into. The only part that we went into that was not listed here is 1/2 of one page, page 410, where Mark Jensen indisputably wrote in his book about his visit to Dr. Borman. And I think that was a better description of his visit to Dr. Borman than was contained in the interview. And that's why I wanted to use it. Since it's accurate, since it's a statement by the defendant, since the defense counsel has the statement by the defendant, we've complied with the discovery statute, it should be admitted. Now, admittedly, I should have told about it, but now they know about it. It's clearly a statement by a party opponent. It's relevant and it's admissible.
Well, then why did we get into this discussion at pretrial motions that the state was only going to use portions of the manuscript?
Your Honor, at the time that
does the state intend to read any more of this?
No, we were not going to. This was the last question I was putting to the witness, Your Honor, was page
Done
410.
with this witness?
I was not going to ask you more questions of this witness. This was the last question I was posing to this witness, was that question about page 410. It was not my intent to put in the remaining statements, at least not at this point in the proceeding, not through my direct examination. It could come up on cross, depending on what they bring. I'm sorry. It could come up on redirect, depending on what they go into on cross-examination. But I was only going to use that one portion of the manuscript at this juncture. Now, when I'm cross-examining defense experts, the whole book, any portion of the book that's relevant to the cross-examination of the defense expert could be utilized, except for the portions of the book in which Mark Jensen writes about the letter and actually rewrites the entire letter in his own handwriting. I'm not going to go into that because this court had previously ruled that I could not cross-examine the defense expert, the defense psychiatrist, on the issue of Julie Jensen being a high risk of suicide on December 3rd. I could not cross-examine her about Julie Jensen's letter. So I'm following the court's order. So we excluded that portion from the book that we were going to utilize.
So I'll ask Mr. Perry, what do you want to do then?
As long as it's done, then I don't think there's anything else that can be done about it. I don't think any portion that wasn't noticed, because that's what the whole discussion was and the reason for the notice.
I will note for the record, there was a discussion about what portions were going to come in. This was only one small half page that came in. Nothing else, according to the state, is going to violate that portion of the order. So we'll just continue and leave it alone. So how much more do you have on direct, Mr. Jamboys?
That was my last question on direct to this witness, Your Honor.
All right. How much cross do you have?
More than 45 minutes.
A fair amount.
I don't want to have you start, because the problem is we come back and we start over. So I'm going to tell the jury that your direct has been completed, and then let them go home, and we'll start with the cross in the morning. Okay? All right. Bring the jury back.
All right. So the jury's going to come back in, and then we're going to go to we're going to call it a day, which is I'm good with. I'm very good with this.
This is 410 of the book. So
I will have this done hopefully by the end of the day. If not tomorrow, we'll be back in here, and I'll be able to work on it a little more. But it's a pretty, I guess I would say it's the most sourced information that I could get together for you guys, down to pulling quotes and giving you a breakdown of like how's the trial went, the first trial, how it all went. Including clips of the testimonies from the people, and some write-ups of those testimonies, just because I know some of them are hard to hear. I'm just trying to put it in a format here and source it as best I can to make sure that it, it's flowable. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of information that I want to make sure you understand that as you read through it, you can click and play as it goes through, and then understand the order in which the witnesses came up and how the case kind of materialized in the eyes of the court. So that's what I'm working on for you guys right now.
All right, the jury's back in the courtroom. You have a seat, ladies and gentlemen. We're back on the record on Mark Jensen's case, 2002 CF.
Are those Julie
314, the
Jensen's parents?
appearances
Actually,
of
looks like Mark's
stand.
dad.
Mr. Jamboys, do you have any further questions for this witness?
I'm just going to have him authenticate the book, Your Honor.
That looks just like Mark. All right. What do you guys think?
Page you just read came from Exhibit S45, correct?
That is correct.
And that is the paginated version of the manuscript that Mark Jensen wrote?
Yes.
Nothing further.
Okay. This time the defense has an opportunity to do a, excuse me, a cross, but it's not going to get done before 5, and I don't want them to start and then tomorrow repeat the same question. So you had to early go home today. Thank you, folks. Come back at 8:30. You might want to bring your umbrellas tomorrow, okay? Have a good evening.
You gotta love how the judge is just like damn near the old Irish goodbye. He's like, "Yep, that's it. We're done for the day. See you later." There's no lollygagging. There's no. I mean, you guys know just from based on our last trial coverage with Darrell Brooks that it was like a nightmare of sorts dealing with his nonsense. You know what I mean? Like, every time we tried to leave, it was an objection to this, an objection to that, and we had to deal with that. Which was nonstop. So either way, yeah, that's court for the day. And that should be us for the day. Give you guys a chance to go and enjoy your evening. To the mods, you guys, thanks so much for the help today. You guys are incredible. I know the first part of the day I wasn't able to be as present as I'd like to, but here we go. For everyone else that jumped in here, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Again, this is CJ TV. I'm your host, CJ. Set up notifications for ongoing trials and a whole battery of different things that we'll be looking into here in this new year of 2023. So thank you all for joining me today. And I appreciate the continued support. And if you want to show that support, become a member, a subscriber, whatever you can do, a supporter, all of those. It's $4.99 a month, I believe, and it definitely helps keep the lights on, keep the internet rolling here, helps me do what I do, puts a chair under my ass so that I can, not get scoliosis from this thing. And actually, I don't know if that's how it works, but it would be better. Either way, stars are great on YouTube or on Facebook, super chats, super stickers on YouTube, and just sharing the stream helps a lot. So that being said, I do appreciate everything you guys are doing with me here, and I appreciate you hanging out. So I look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning, bright and early, 8:30 Central Standard Time. You guys be good, and yeah, be good to yourselves. Catch you later.